Stephen was impressed by the manager's splendid acting. He pretended to be surprised. Free of charge? It looks like I really can't predict the future. In other words, I don't have to pay anything for my half of the bill, right? The manager nodded. That's right. You're very lucky. Everyone was dumbfounded. Half of the bill was $4.95 million, but Stephen wouldn't have to pay a single penny. This was unbelievable. Joe stepped forward. No, I'm the one who will be paying first. I'm the lucky one, not him. Everyone spoke up for Joe because they couldn't accept that someone like Stephen had managed to find a loophole to get out of paying his half of the bill. He's the one who invited all of us here today. Logically speaking, he should be the one paying first. We can all testify to that. We were just joking around when we said we should let Stephen go first. You might not know this, but the person in front of you is the useless son-in-law of the Cassidy family. But Joe is one of the youngest professors in the city. He's also the student of the famous Dr. Colin Hester. I'm sorry, but the hotel has its rules, the manager said, pretending like there was nothing he could do about it. I've been here this entire time, and I heard Mr. Holloway tell Mr. Adams to pay first. If it was a joke, I'm sorry, but I couldn't tell. The manager lowered his head in apology, but internally, he was thinking that this group of people were ridiculous. Who were they calling a useless son-in-law? What a load of nonsense. The person in front of them was the owner of this hotel. If he was considered useless, what would that make the rest of them? Mr. Adams, you're all set. Mr. Holloway, please come this way to pay. Joe was at a loss. What the heck was going on? He had risked almost all of his savings to humiliate Stephen, but in the end, Stephen would be walking away scot-free, whereas he would have to spend almost $5 million for this group of so-called classmates of his. What a joke! No, I can't accept this. You can refuse, but I'll have to call the police and blacklist you from the entire hotel industry in the city, the manager warned as he picked up his phone. Wait, I'll give you my card. Joe couldn't afford to get in trouble with the police. His reputation would be ruined. He took out a card and held it out with a shaky hand. The manager swiped the card and returned it to him. Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Oh yes, because the amount you spent today set a record, we've decided that in the future, whenever you're here, we'll give you an unlimited supply of peanuts. Joe was so angry that he almost threw the card on the floor. He had spent almost $5 million for free peanuts? Stephen stood to the side with Kim and Caitlin. How did you know you wouldn't have to pay? Kim asked. He shrugged. Who knows? Maybe I'm actually a prophet in disguise. You're so full of yourself, Caitlin said with a sigh, but she was secretly envious of his heaven-defying luck. One of Kim and Caitlin's university classmates came up to them. She was wearing heavy makeup and a revealing outfit. Stephen, you're acting like you're all that, but if it weren't for Joe telling you to pay first, you wouldn't have had the chance to eat a free meal. If you really think you're a prophet, you should be thanking Joe for his kindness. She was doing this to get Joe's attention. After all, he was a wealthy man who had spent almost $5 million to treat them. Stephen smiled. You don't believe me? Why would anyone with a brain believe you? Since she was determined to dig her own grave, Stephen would entertain her. Fine, tell me where you work. I'll prove that I can predict the future. The woman grinned as she held out her business card. I'm Lauren, and I'm a secretary at this company. My salary is more than $20,000 a month. How's that? Are you scared? Stephen glanced at the card. I see. He sent Jack a message before putting his phone back into his pocket. I predict that in 3 minutes, your boss will call you and tell you that you've been fired. Lauren laughed. Are you serious? My boss is going to fire me? Let me tell you something. Even if my boss fires everyone at the company, he'll never fire me. In addition to being the boss's secretary, Lauren was also his lover. He always praised her for her excellent skills at work. He would never fire her. Kim pulled Stephen back. Stop fooling around. It was already late into the evening. Why would Lauren's boss call just to fire her? Caitlin shook her head in disapproval. Only those who were incompetent relied on luck. Just then, Lauren's phone rang. It was her boss. "Didn't I tell you I'd be at my class reunion today? Couldn't you handle not talking to me for a couple hours?"
"What's there to handle? You're fired. This will take effect immediately. Stir up all the trouble you want, but don't even think about taking one step into the company again."
Lauren was in disbelief. "What did you just say?" "I said you've been fired." "You have no conscience," she yelled into the phone. "I help you with your work during and after working hours, but now you're firing me out of the blue? How am I supposed to pay off my credit card?" Lauren stormed out of the hotel to continue her conversation in a more secluded location. Everyone was shocked as they watched her leave. Stephen faced them with a smile. "Does anyone else want to test my luck?" Everyone fell silent. They wanted to talk back, but after seeing Lauren's miserable ending, no one dared to take the lead. "Stephen, how did you do that?" Kim asked. "I got lucky," he said simply. Kim was disappointed that Stephen didn't want to tell her the truth, but she didn't question him further. "Okay, if you say so." Caitlin was also curious, but since he didn't want to explain, she lost interest. Joe forced a smile. He would make sure to deal with Stephen later. "Since we're done here, let's head to the bar." Joe had arranged several cars in advance. They were waiting in front of the hotel's entrance to pick them up. Everyone got into their respective cars. Soon, only Joe, Kim, Caitlin, and Stephen were left. "Stephen, why don't you come to the bar by yourself?" Joe suggested. "There's only one car. It's not enough to fit all of us." Kim frowned. "I can squeeze into the back seat with Stephen." "No, this car belongs to a wealthy friend of mine. It's expensive. What if something happens to the car because there's too many people sitting in the back? I won't be able to afford the damages. Besides, I'm sure Stephen is perfectly capable of driving his own car." Kim was getting very close to losing her patience. How would a car be damaged from her and Stephen sitting close together? Joe was obviously making ridiculous accusations. Fine. If he was going to be like this, then they would just go home. She didn't want to come to this reunion in the first place. When Kim was about to inform Joe that they would leave early, Stephen interrupted her. "It's fine. You guys go ahead. I'll call you later." "At least you know your place," Joe said. He got in the front seat and slammed the door shut. Kim let out a sigh as she looked at Stephen apologetically. If it weren't for Amy's grades, she would have never come here, and Stephen wouldn't have had to deal with all this. "I'll be okay on my own. I'll be there soon," Stephen said. When Caitlin pulled Kim to the car, she reluctantly got in. Joe didn't bother waiting for Stephen and told the driver to get going. Stephen got in his own car and headed to the bar. When he arrived, there was a crowd of people gathered on the street. Stephen stepped out of the car and made his way through the crowd. At the center was the same car that Kim and Caitlin were in. A man who looked like trouble was standing next to the front seat where Joe was sitting. Joe looked at the man, who was wearing a t-shirt and baggy jeans, and then at his cheap car. He took out a stack of $100 bills from his pocket and stuffed it in the man's hands. "I admit that it's our fault for hitting your car, but you're the one who drove in front of us all of the sudden. Here's $10,000. Let's settle this peacefully." This man was not a kind person either. He threw the bills in Joe's face. "I need my car for work. What am I going to do with $10,000? Buy me a car to compensate." Kim's university classmate, Carl, came rushing over. "Joe, what happened? Is this person bothering you? Don't worry, I'll take care of him." Carl stood face to face with the man. He used to be on a sports team, so he was confident in his strength. "If you don't know how to drive properly, then don't drive at all. Your car is worth pennies compared to his. I doubt you can even afford the repairs." The man wasn't fazed. "So what? It's a fact that he hit my car." Carl stepped closer. "You have a really bad temper. Why don't you work on improving your driving skills before cheating others out of their money?" Without warning, The man slammed his forehead against Carl's. Carl didn't expect him to make the first move. He was a little dazed because he had let down his guard and taken his attack head-on. Carl staggered back and motioned for his classmates to come forward. 10 people surrounded the man in a heartbeat. None of them wanted to miss the opportunity of getting on Joe's good side. They ganged up on the man, hitting and kicking him like he was a punching bag. They stopped when the man sprawled against the lamppost, looking like a mess. But even then, the man continued to run his mouth. "You'll regret this." Joe got out of the car and slapped the man one last time. "You'll be the one to regret, not me. I could have easily taken you down, but I don't want to get my hands dirty." Joe took out a handkerchief and wiped his hands. "He's injured. Should we really just leave him here?" Kim asked in a worried tone. "What's wrong with that?" Carl said. "We didn't even beat him that hard." A familiar voice called out to Joe. "Even if you barely lifted a finger, you still have a way of making yourself look like you did all the work. Instead of trying to act cool, you should prepare yourself for the incoming disaster." Joe looked in the direction of the bar's entrance and noticed that Stephen had already arrived. "What disaster? I don't know what you're talking about. Not all of us are incompetent like you." When Carl saw Stephen put on airs, he felt an urge to give him a good punch. The only reason he didn't was because of Kim. Stephen chuckled. "It doesn't matter if you believe me. When the time comes, we'll see who's really incompetent." In this city, no one would be able to threaten Kim's safety as long as he was here. Kim pulled his arm. "Stephen, stop making things worse." One of Kim's university classmates noticed her necklace. "Kim, is that Fergus's necklace? It can't be a fake, right? It's limited edition, and it's worth at least $1 million. I'm not trying to look down on you or anything, but I don't think you can afford it." Kim caressed the necklace. "It's real. Stephen gave it to me." Kim's classmates were initially envious of her necklace, but after hearing that it was a gift from Stephen, their expressions turned sour. "That's probably a knockoff he bought on the streets." "I agree. He can't even support himself. How would he have the money to buy Fergus's necklace?" "Marrying a good-for-nothing man is such a pity. He doesn't have the money to buy a proper present." "Not everyone can be like Joe. He spent $5 million for a single meal." Stephen smiled as he gestured to Joe. "You can ask Joe if it's real or fake. He would know." Joe was surprised when everyone looked at him. He gritted his teeth in anger when he recalled what happened at the restaurant that day. He turned away and looked elsewhere. "You're talking as if the necklace is real. Do you have an invoice? Do you have an anti-counterfeit certificate?" one of Kim's classmates asked. "Of course I do." Stephen took out his phone and showed them pictures. After Joe questioned him last time, he had predicted that Kim's classmates would do the same. He made sure to ask Keisha to send him the relevant documents. Kim's classmates were dumbfounded. "I can't believe it." Carl was also curious. He didn't think a freeloader like Stephen would ever have the money to buy a necklace that was worth over $1 million. "Is it real or fake?" Carl asked as he came over. "From what I can see, it's real." "Are you serious?" Carl exclaimed. "Stephen, tell me honestly, where did you steal this money from? Don't you know that stealing money is a crime? If you don't tell me, I'll call the police right now." Stephen shrugged. "You have a wild imagination." "Watch what you say. I could teach you a lesson right now if I wanted to." Joe looked at Stephen in disdain. "Carl, forget about him. It's only a necklace worth around $1 million. Who cares where he got the money from? You'll only be lowering yourself to his level if you continue talking to him. Ignore him and let's enjoy ourselves." Everyone followed Joe inside. He had reserved the bar for the evening. It wasn't long before the atmosphere turned lively as people rushed to sing on stage. Stephen was quietly sitting next to Kim and drinking his wine. Caitlin propped her chin up with her hand and sighed. Why are they fighting over the mic when none of them can sing? I'm starting to miss the person we saw at the mall the other day. It would be great if he could sing a song for me. You haven't even seen his face before, but you're already talking like he's yours, Kim teased. Hey, are you talking about that one participant in the Masked Singer competition? I've seen a video of him. He sang "The Girl Who Spoke to Me." His voice was beautiful. Right now, any video with him in it has at least 5 million views. Kim leaned over to Caitlin and whispered, Look, you have quite a few rivals. Caitlin crossed her arms. None of them are as good as me. Stephen had only sung on stage to fulfill one of Kim's dreams and make her happy. Who would have thought that he would suddenly become famous? Are you talking about that man who sang on stage at the mall? Yeah, you went to the bathroom and missed it. But sometimes I feel like your voice is similar to his, Kim said. Caitlin looked Stephen up and down. What are you talking about? The person we saw was handsome, tall, and charming. How could he be your husband? Stephen laughed in response before excluding himself from the conversation. When Joe saw how heated the discussion was, he took out his phone and searched for the videos they were talking about. Where did this guy come from? He had become popular overnight and won the hearts of so many people. As Joe watched the video, he noticed that the man's voice and build were similar to his. An idea crossed his mind as he looked at Kim. Get ready to fall madly in love with me, Joe thought. He left the bar to make preparations. 15 minutes later, the lights in the bar dimmed as a man wearing a mask appeared on stage. I'll be singing "The Girl Who Spoke to Me." I hope you all like it. The music started playing, and familiar lyrics echoed in the bar. The heart is empty, the sky is vast, and the clouds are heavy. Everyone exchanged glances. Is this the man who sang at the Masked Singer competition? Listen to his voice and look at his build. They have to be the same person. Wait, could he be one of our classmates? Caitlin's heart pounded as she stared at the stage. Kim, what do you think? I'm not sure. He is similar to the person we saw at the mall, but there's something different about him. But how many people in the world would have such a beautiful voice and attractive stature? I don't think there could be this many coincidences. Stephen sat back and watched the man sing. How interesting, he thought. When the song came to an end, someone asked the man to take off his mask, and he readily agreed. Everyone held their breath in anticipation. The moment he took off his mask, Kim's classmates screamed, one after another. It's Joe! It really was one of our classmates. He's so handsome. Not only is he a professor, he also has an amazing voice. I'm in love. After our reunion ends, I'll confess to him. Even if he only spends one night with me, I'll be happy. Several of them had been secretly falling in love with Joe. Now that he had revealed his identity as the mystery singer, their feelings for him grew stronger. Carl went up on stage to praise him. Joe, I didn't know it was you. I watched a video of you, and you're so popular online. Who would have thought the mysterious singer would turn out to be my classmate? Joe looked in Kim's direction. Singing is only one of my hobbies. On the day that video was taken, I went on stage on a whim. I didn't think it would start trending the very next day. Carl pretended like he was in awe. I'm so envious. You're handsome, knowledgeable, and great at singing. What can't you do? You're exaggerating, Joe said, but he secretly liked Carl's flattery. Joe noticed Stephen's gaze. What are you looking at? Aren't you going to sing a song for us? It's not every day we have the time to meet up. I'm looking at you, because I was wondering how thick-skinned a person could be. Joe didn't say anything. Had he been exposed? Everyone rushed to defend him. Stephen, what are you trying to say? Do you think that you're better than Joe? If you have the courage, go on stage and sing. Kim, hurry up and get your husband to sing. It's rare for us to have a get-together. You won't ruin our mood, right? When everyone turned their attention to Kim, she glanced at Stephen. She wasn't sure how well he could sing. Caitlin glared at him. Why are you hesitating like a coward? Just go up there and howl some lyrics. That's what other people did. It's not like you'll die if you sing terribly. Stephen put down his glass of wine. All right, then. As he went up on stage, everyone continued to mock him. Is he really going to sing? What an idiot. I have to record a video. Who knows? Maybe my video will trend tomorrow. Does anyone have earplugs? If not, I suggest you all cover your ears. That will save you the pain. Stephen looked at Kim as he held the mic. I'll love you for 10,000 years, he said. This was the title of the song that he was planning to sing, and it was a confession. Kim's heart skipped a beat. Stephen pressed play, and music filled the bar. With each rotation of the earth, I'll love you for one more day. His voice was clear and melodious. It was gentle and pleasant to the ear, like the sound of spring water flowing onto a lake, soothing everyone's hearts. Everyone stared at the stage in a trance. This song reminds me of my ex-boyfriend. I still love him. Every word makes my heart pound. Caitlin was in disbelief as she turned to Kim. When did he learn how to sing? I don't know, but he's singing really well. Kim's heart fluttered as she held Stephen's gaze. When she was younger, she used to envision her future partner singing her a love song. Today, Stephen had fulfilled a long-forgotten dream from her youth. Stephen never took his eyes off Kim. He had wanted to tell her every lyric he was singing for a very long time, but he had never had the chance. I'll brave the test of time and love you for 10,000 years. Everyone was entranced by Stephen's singing. He reminded them of their own experiences in love. When the song ended, Stephen's voice lingered in the bar, and several people were still reminiscing about the past. Caitlin, doesn't his voice remind you of someone? Kim asked. Yeah, it was familiar. It felt like Joe was imitating the original singer while Stephen sang his own interpretation of the song. It was emotional and deep, just like the person we saw at the mall. When Stephen left the stage and went back to Kim, he was concerned when she looked a little out of it. What's wrong? Nothing. I was just thinking about your song. When did you learn how to sing? Stephen grinned. I learned recently. I'm not that good. Caitlin was suspicious. A sudden realization came to her when she noticed his shoes. They were the same shoes that the man on stage at the mall had worn. She remembered them clearly, because there was a mark on the side of his left shoe. Could it be? Caitlin's heart pounded in excitement as she looked at Kim and then at Stephen. Carl snapped out of his trance. He sang a bit better than we expected, but who cares? That doesn't change anything. He's still a worthless son-in-law. His words woke everyone up from their daze. How disgusting. I was actually starting to have a better impression of him. Life is so unfair. Why does someone like him have such a good voice? But Joe's still the best. No one can top his performance or his popularity online. But why do I feel like Stephen's voice sounds more like... Be quiet, Carl yelled. Joe admitted that he was the person in the video. Are you trying to say that he was lying? But the seed of doubt had been sowed. More and more people started to question if Joe was really the mystery singer. All of a sudden, someone kicked the door open and put an end to their conversation. A burly man with a cigar in his mouth strode into the bar, followed by several others. Who hit my friend? Come forward and show yourself, or else I'll make it so that none of you will be able to leave. A man with a swollen face stood behind the group. This was the same person who Kim's classmates had beat up before they came into the bar. Carl turned to Joe and whispered, What should we do? It looks like we messed with the wrong person. The leader of their group is Dominic, and he's famous for being ruthless. There are rumors that when he first appeared in this neighborhood, he violently assaulted the previous groups to take their territory. The people around them overheard their conversation. What? That's Dominic? I heard he beats people up without batting an eye. I heard he's protective of his group. He won't stop until he gets back at us. Several of them were already sneaking away. They were ready to escape the moment they found an opportunity. Calm down, Joe said. We did beat up his friend, but it's not like we didn't have a reason. He was the one who started it. Also, my uncle is the president of the Business Alliance, and my teacher is a famous doctor. No matter who they are, they'll at least have to hear me out. Joe spoke calmly, but he was panicking on the inside. What was with today? First, he was cheated out of $5 million, and now he offended another influential group of thugs. Dominic wasn't pleased to see them whispering. He pulled out numerous shiny weapons from his bag and stabbed the table with them. All of you, shut up! Whoever dares to talk, I'll slice them in half. Joe forced himself to step forward. We were in the wrong. I'd like to apologize. My uncle is Philip Pace. He's the president of the Business Alliance, and I'm also the student of Colin Hester, a famous doctor. I hope you can forgive us. What are you rambling about? I don't know any of those people. Dominic kicked Joe square in the chest. He bumped against the table and collapsed on the floor. Dominic's friend with the swollen cheek recognized Joe. It's him. He was the one who hit me. Dominic walked up to Joe and loomed over him. He grabbed his collar and lifted him up. So it was you. You're too arrogant for your own good. Joe was scared out of his wits. He tried to struggle free, but to no avail. Joe's mind reeled when Dominic slapped him across the face. Before Dominic could hit him again, he cried out, I'm innocent! Someone told me to hit him! Dominic threw him on the table. Who? If you lie to me, don't blame me for using my knife. Joe struggled to sit up. He pointed a shaky finger at Stephen. It was him. His name is Stephen Adams. He said your friend scared his girlfriend with his driving skills. He told me to help him vent his anger. Everyone turned their attention to Stephen. Kim rushed to clarify the situation. That's nonsense. Stephen wasn't in the car when we crashed. However, the people around them backed Joe up. I remember now. I was with Joe when he received a call from Stephen. He told Joe to beat up your friend. I heard that too. At the time, Joe was strongly against it. But that scumbag Stephen actually threatened his own wife, Kim, so we had no choice but to agree. This is all because of that trash Stephen. Dominic, you can do whatever you want to him, but let us leave first. Kim didn't expect her university classmates to be this despicable. You're all going too far. Nothing you said was the truth. Caitlin also stood up for Stephen. She's right. I was with Joe the whole time. When did he ever pick up the phone? Carl gave them a look of disapproval. I understand why Kim would defend Stephen, because they're married. But Caitlin, why are you sticking up for him? Did you two sleep together? Kim and Caitlin couldn't believe what they were hearing. These people were ridiculous. Dominic dragged his knife against the wall as he went up to Stephen. Are you the person they're talking about? Stephen Adams? Stephen sent a message before looking up from his phone. Yes, I'm Kim's husband. You sure are confident. Aren't you scared that I'll cut you down? Dominic threw a chair against the wall, and it broke upon impact. Kim's classmates screamed and crouched on the floor. Stephen was relaxed as he looked around the bar. Are you all sure you want to cut ties with me and pretend like we've never met? No one replied. They looked at Stephen like he was their scapegoat. Forget it. Kim, Caitlin, let's go, Stephen said as he stood up. Dominic was furious when Stephen ignored him, but before he could do anything, his phone rang. Dominic's expression turned into one of fear when he saw the number. He hurried to the door to take the call. After a long time, Dominic returned. He was no longer as haughty as before. Mr. Adams, please feel free to leave. I've investigated thoroughly. This has nothing to do with the three of you. The others were hopeful when they saw that Dominic was letting them leave. What about us? Shut it, Dominic warned.
One more word and I'll chop you all into pieces." Stephen held Kim's hand and motioned for Caitlin to follow them. "Let's go." When they reached the door, Stephen turned around. "All right, I almost forgot. There's someone named Carl. His mouth stinks. You guys should teach him some manners." Carl paled when Stephen called him out. When they left the bar, Kim couldn't help but look back. "Stephen, can't you bring them with you?" Stephen put on an expression of someone who just survived a life-or-death situation. "It's good enough that the three of us made it out safely. I used your name to send Christina a text just now. That's why she saved us. Besides, they won't go overboard." Kim remembered the beautiful woman at the hotel who had given her a business card. Christina had told her to give her a call if she ever needed help. At that time, Kim didn't know when she would ever need to call her. Who knew Christina would save them today? Caitlin had been thinking that Stephen was the mystery singer, but she scrapped that thought when she saw him act timid at the bar. "Here I was thinking you knew someone powerful, but it turns out it was Kim who had connections." Stephen smiled. "That's right, Kim's incredible. Someone like you won't have the connections like she does." Whenever Stephen was around, he never failed to annoy Caitlin. But before she could say anything else, he and Kim said their goodbyes and left in the car. The next day, after Stephen drove Kim to work, he rushed to Colin's house. "How is he doing? Is he okay?" "Mr. Adams, he's no longer on the brink of death. Whoever it is, as long as they're still breathing, I'll be able to save them." Colin spoke respectfully, but there was a hint of pride in his voice. "Okay, take me to him. Be careful not to reveal my identity." Colin led Stephen to the other room. Matthew's complexion was pale, and he could barely sit up. "I always had a feeling that you weren't an ordinary person." "The same goes for you," Stephen said. "An ordinary person wouldn't have had such a dangerous enemy." He sat down on the chair next to the bed. "Isn't there something you want to tell me?" Matthew took a deep breath before telling his story. "He used to be my subordinate and my best friend. When we left the slums, we were foolish and not afraid of death. We were always getting into trouble. After we made a name for ourselves in the underworld and expanded our territory, he joined forces with a few other groups and stole my position. He even killed my wife in front of me." "Why didn't he kill you?" "Because I got lucky. He shot me, but I managed to escape all the way to Los Angeles. It wasn't until recently when he found out I was hiding here. That's why he sent someone to get rid of me once and for all." A trace of emotion flickered in Stephen's eyes. "No wonder I felt like we were alike. We've had similar experiences." He looked Matthew in the eye. "Do you want revenge?" "Yes, but with my current condition, I don't think—" Stephen stood up and headed to the door. "If you want your revenge, then the first thing you have to do is recover. After you get better, I'll help you with what you want to do." At this time, Harry was in Kim's office at the company. "You're the vice president, but you barely have any work to do. This can't continue." Kim was in no mood to sugarcoat her words. "Isn't that all because of you?" "Hey, why are you making me sound like some kind of bad guy? No one's stopping you from working here. I actually have something for you to do. This afternoon, someone from our company needs to supervise the inspection at the Century Garden. I have other things to take care of, so I'll leave this to you." As soon as Harry finished, he put a stack of documents on Kim's desk and left the room without waiting for her answer. Kim was dumbfounded as she flipped through the documents. This was a project that Harry had been overseeing for a long time. She didn't know anything about it, so how could she be responsible for the inspection? More importantly, the inspection was the most important part of this project. Why would Harry push the work onto her instead of personally doing the job himself? But regardless of the reason, Harry had already given her this task, and she would have to do it in his place. After lunch, Kim decided to give Stephen a call. She had a strange feeling about all this, and she didn't think it would be a good idea to go alone. Since there was no one in the company who she could trust, she could only ask Stephen to tag along.
If something really did happen, at least he would be on her side. Are you free right now? I need to drop by the Century Garden. Can you come with me? Sure, I'll pick you up soon. Stephen arrived at 1 in the afternoon. Kim's mind was a mess as she got into the car. She had spent the entire morning trying to digest all the information she had been given on the project. Why do you need to go there? Shouldn't the vice president be in charge of finances and internal affairs? Stephen asked. I only found out today that I'm responsible for the inspection. This has always been Harry's job, but he said he had other important matters to attend to, and he doesn't have time to do it himself. That sounds a bit strange. What do you think he's up to? I don't know, but those who work in the real estate industry should be aware of how important inspections are. They could make or break the project. If there was an accident, you'll probably have to take the blame for it instead of Harry. Kim thought it over. But he wouldn't dare try anything. Everyone knows how important this project is to the Cassidy family. And even if he wanted to, Grandma would never let him. I hope you're right, Stephen replied. Half an hour later, they arrived. When they stepped out of the car, a group of people in uniform rushed over. A middle-aged man in uniform came forward. Are you from the Cassidy group? Why are you late for the inspection? Although the man's tone was rude, Kim didn't want to offend him since he was only filling in for Harry. She apologized with a smile. You must be Mr. Mullen. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I'm Kim. Before she could finish, Mr. Mullen interrupted her. Cut the small talk and let's get started. We're busy people. Kim tried her best to maintain her smile. In order to pass the inspection, she could only swallow her frustrations. Please follow me. She led the group of inspectors into the building. Stephen followed them from behind. A typical inspector would be familiar with the employees from an established company like the Cassidy Group. Whether it was professionalism or for the sake of making connections, they would treat them with respect. It didn't make sense for this inspector to act high and mighty the moment he saw Kim. Let's see what tricks you have up your sleeve, Stephen thought. Not even 5 minutes after they entered the building, Mr. Mullen started criticizing. Trash is everywhere. Haven't you cleaned up yet? Kim was nervous when she saw the mess in the hallway. We were careless. I'll ask someone to clean it up right away. Mr. Mullen pointed to the windows. Which company manufactured these windows? Are they durable? How's the quality? Kim racked her brain to recall. Real estate projects involve numerous companies, and it was impossible to remember all of them in only a few hours. I believe they're of standard quality. So you're not sure? If you don't know your own building, what was the point of you coming here? Kim was ashamed by his scolding because he was right, but she did the best she could with the little time she had to prepare. As they made their way to each floor, Mr. Mullen asked countless questions, and Kim tried her best to answer them. Finally, they arrived at the rooftop. Towards the end of the inspection, Mr. Mullen crouched and examined a box of steel bars. Are these Lorenzi's steel bars? Kim was flustered as she flipped through the documents in a hurry. She had never heard of this company before. She skimmed through each page, but she couldn't find any mention of steel bars from Lorenzi. Mr. Mullen, we're using steel bars from a different company. Do you have eyes? Are you not seeing what I'm seeing? How could you hide this many steel bars from Lorenzi on the roof? They don't meet the safety requirements. From what I can see, your project is dangerous. Kim was getting anxious. She didn't know why these steel bars were here either. She called Harry, but he didn't pick up. In the end, she could only call the project manager, Raymond Cassidy, and ask him to come. When Raymond arrived, he glanced at Kim in disapproval before greeting Mr. Mullen. What's the situation? Mr. Mullen didn't answer and turned around. Kim couldn't be bothered to care about Raymond's disrespectful attitude towards her. Explain what's going on with these steel bars from Lorenzi. How would I know? The last time I came, they weren't here. You're the manager of this project. How could you not know? If you're aware that I'm the manager, then you should also know that I'm not in charge of the inspection. Since the building has been completed, my work is done. You should solve your own problems. As a vice president, you can't even handle something as important as an inspection? You're an embarrassment to our family." Without another word, Raymond left. While Kim was at a loss of what to do, Stephen went up to her and held her hand. "Mr. Mullen, how do you propose we deal with this situation?" he asked. "There's nothing more to be said. You failed the inspection." Kim tightened her grip on Stephen's hand. The Century Garden project was essentially the face of the Cassidy Group. If something went wrong, it would be a devastating blow to their reputation, and there would also be a shortage of funds. They couldn't afford to fail the inspection. Stephen narrowed his eyes. "You're giving your answer after seeing a few boxes? Shouldn't you call some experts over to inspect them? I don't believe you have the qualifications to determine their quality." "You're bold to threaten me, but I'm the inspector here, and I have full authority. You've failed the inspection, and that's that. Nothing you say can change my mind." Stephen was now completely sure that Mr. Mullen had accepted a bribe to intentionally make things difficult for Kim. "Is that so? Are you telling me that even your boss, James, can't overturn your judgment?" Mr. Mullen laughed. "Stephen, don't think I don't know who you are. You're only a son-in-law of the Cassidy family. Even your grandmother isn't qualified to meet with my boss. What makes you think you can contact him?" "You'll know soon enough," Stephen said. He sent a message to Jack, telling him to get James to come to Century Garden. Mr. Mullen sent the other inspector away. "All right, I won't be leaving yet. I want to see how far you can take your nonsense." Meanwhile, Harry had just received a phone call from Raymond. "Grandma, we should go. Raymond told me they're at the rooftop."
"Has everything been arranged? You can't make any mistakes. The inspection is the most important part of this project."
"Don't worry. Mr. Mullen is one of us. On the surface, he'll tell Kim she's failed the inspection. But in reality, we passed a long time ago."
"Good,"
Helen said as she got ready to leave.
"I don't have anything against Kim, but we can't risk having the Cassidy Group fall into the hands of outsiders."
Meanwhile, Kim was pacing back and forth on the rooftop, trying to figure out a solution. "Stephen, what should I do? I'm in big trouble. Are you sure Mr. Mullen's boss is going to come? I've never seen him before. And it doesn't seem like Mr. Mullen's going to give us a pass. If we fail the inspection, Grandma will be really mad when she finds out." "I'm afraid Grandma knows better than any of us," Stephen said. Kim stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. How is it possible for all of these coincidences to happen on the same day? Harry had something to do with it, so he passed the responsibility of the inspection onto you. And Mr. Mullen, who's in charge of the inspection, made things difficult for you the entire time. Not to mention, why are there so many boxes of Lorenzi's steel bars on the roof? So you're saying Harry did this on purpose?" "It's not just him. Even though he's not that competent, he's not stupid. Without Grandma's approval, he would never make such a risky move." Kim was conflicted. For the past few years, she had done everything she could for the Cassidy family, and she had tried her hardest to live up to Helen's expectations. But after recent events, she was beginning to wonder if they would ever acknowledge her and support her. A group of people pushed open the door to the rooftop. It was Helen, Harry, and several members of the Cassidy family. "Grandma and Harry? Why are you two here?" Kim asked nervously. "If we didn't come, this project would have been ruined," Harry said. "Do you know how important this project is to the Cassidy family? You're the vice president, but you can't even handle an inspection." "Grandma, I can explain." Helen signaled for Kim to be quiet.
"There's no need for that. We'll talk later."
She walked up to Mr. Mullen and greeted him.
"Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Mullen. I'm really sorry for causing you trouble today. My granddaughter is lacking. Please forgive her."
"Miss Helen, this isn't our first meeting, so I'll get straight to the point. To tell you the truth, I'm not pleased with your granddaughter. Her professionalism isn't up to standard. She wasn't prepared for the inspection, and she was disrespectful. I don't understand why you would make someone like her the vice president." Harry watched with a satisfied smile. It seemed like the money he spent last night wasn't for nothing.
"Don't worry, Mr. Mullen. Once I get back to the company, I'll submit the necessary documentation to remove Kim from the vice president position. As for the inspection..."
Helen trailed off and gave Mr. Mullen an expectant look.
"It won't be a problem. I'll have experts come later and check the steel bars. As long as they're not from Lorenzi, I'll give you a pass for the inspection."
"That's good to hear, Mr. Mullen. Please follow me. I'll have my incompetent granddaughter apologize to you."
Helen led Mr. Mullen over to Kim.
"Apologize to Mr. Mullen right now."
"Grandma, it's not my fault."
"You abused your position as the vice president to do whatever you wanted outside the company. And you even disrespected Mr. Mullen. Just where did you get the courage? When we got back to the company, you'll no longer be the vice president. If you don't apologize now, don't even think about coming to work tomorrow."
Tears welled up in Kim's eyes. She felt even more wronged when she saw the smug look on Harry's face. Kim didn't have a choice. She had worked hard at the Cassidy Group for many years. She couldn't let her efforts go to waste. Just as Kim was about to apologize, Stephen stepped forward and stopped her. "You didn't do anything wrong. There's no need to apologize." "Who do you think you are?" Harry snapped. "You have no right to go against Grandma." Kim held Stephen's arm. "It's okay. An apology is nothing. I can't leave the company." Mr. Mullen crossed his arms when he saw Stephen. "It wasn't just your granddaughter. This man also disrespected me. Get him to apologize right now." Harry didn't wait for Helen's instructions, and she spoke in her stead. "Didn't you hear what he said? Hurry up and apologize. For someone as shameless as you, it won't be difficult, right? An apology from me is fine, but I have one question for you. You were supposed to be in charge of the inspection today, but you handed over the task to Kim at the last minute. What urgent matter could have been more important than the inspection? As for you, Grandma, we've only been here for 30 minutes. How'd you get here so fast? Were you already expecting a problem with the inspection?" Helen wasn't happy with the implication behind Stephen's question.
"Why do I have to report to you? Just because you have some connections with the owner of Global Investment doesn't mean you can just say whatever you want. If you don't apologize, I'll kick you out of the Cassidy family."
"It's fine if you don't want to tell the truth. I wasn't expecting you to give me an answer anyway."
Stephen turned to Kim.
"Do you see their true colors now?"
Kim blinked back tears. Helen and Harry really had colluded with each other to force her to give up her position as the vice president.
"Your granddaughter's husband said that he would tell my boss to come here in person. He won't be pleased when he hears about this,"
Mr. Mullen said. Helen was so shocked that she almost lost her balance. James was someone who had the power to decide the fate of every real estate project with a single word. Even the CEO of the top real estate company in the city, Kelvin Mills, had to treat James with respect when the development of the villas was underway. And now, Stephen had asked James to come all the way here and meet with him.
"Stephen, I don't care if you want to ruin your life, but why did you have to involve our family?"
Helen raised her walking stick to hit him, but he casually stepped to the side and dodged it.
"If you don't believe me, just wait. At most, he'll be here in 3 minutes. Besides, no one can kick Kim out of the company, not even you."
The other members of the Cassidy family scolded Stephen. He had been so submissive for the past 3 years. Since when did he have the courage to talk back to Helen? "You may have connections with the owner of Global Investment, but don't think you can go against Grandma. Look how self-righteous he's being. He thinks he's someone great. Once we get back, we'll have a family meeting and kick him out of the family."
"It's only 3 minutes, Mr. Mullen said. "I can wait. If my boss doesn't come, Stephen won't be the only person in trouble. The entire Cassidy family will have to bear the consequences."
Everyone gave Stephen a venomous look. If they couldn't resolve today's issue properly, the Cassidy family would most likely never recover. "Stephen, are you sure he'll come?" Kim asked.
"Don't worry. He wouldn't dare to not show up."
3 minutes later, James was nowhere to be seen. Mr. Mullen didn't look the least bit surprised.
"Time's up. It's obvious my boss won't be coming. When I get back, I'll make sure you and the Cassidy family..."
Before he could finish his threat,
the screeching of tires cut him off. Everyone looked over the railing and saw a car pulled up in front of the building. Soon, James burst through the door to the rooftop. Mr. Mullen ran up to him in a panic. "What brings you here?" he stuttered. James shot Mr. Mullen a glare before addressing the crowd with a smile. "Excuse me? Which one of you is Miss Kim?" Kim glanced at Stephen in disbelief. "That would be me." James ignored Mr. Mullen and hurried over. "Miss Kim, hello. I'm really sorry about my employee. When I get back, I'll definitely teach him a lesson." 15 minutes ago, he had received multiple calls from several influential people in the city. They all warned him not to offend Kim Cassidy, or else he would have to face serious consequences. For everyone to warn him to this extent, Kim must have a powerful person supporting her behind the scenes. Kim was confused by James' overly friendly attitude. "It's okay. You don't have to go out of your way." As for Helen, she was thrilled that a prominent person like James had come to visit. When Helen introduced herself as the CEO of the Cassidy Group, James merely threw her an uninterested glance, as if he hadn't heard a single word she said. To him, the Cassidy Group was an insignificant company that he could care less about. "Miss Kim, it was my employee who offended you. I'll get him to apologize." James gave Mr. Mullen a cold look. "Why are you still standing there? Apologize. Now." Mr. Mullen gritted his teeth and went up to Kim. He lowered his head and did as he was told. "I'm sorry, Miss Kim." It was only a few minutes ago when he had asked Helen to force Kim to apologize to him. Who knew their positions would be reversed in such a short amount of time? "You don't sound too sincere," James said. "It looks like you don't want to work for me anymore." In an instant, Mr. Mullen fell to his knees. His current status, finances, and achievements had all been attained from this job. If he were fired, his life would be over. "I'm very sorry, Miss Kim. Everything is my fault." Everyone was shocked. In the blink of an eye, the arrogant Mr. Mullen was now on his knees and apologizing to the very person he had criticized. Since that was taken care of, James decided he might as well do Kim a favor. He turned to Helen. "You said you're the CEO of the Cassidy Group, correct? In the future, I hope you can treat Miss Kim with respect and support her."
Of course, I understand,
Helen promised. Stephen intentionally pretended like he was clueless. "Are you sure about that? Didn't you say you were planning to remove Kim from the vice president's position as soon as you got back? Oh, and didn't you also want to kick her out of the company?" Helen and Harry gave Stephen a dirty look. This piece of trash was trying to take advantage of James's influence. "Is that true?" James demanded without a trace of politeness. "Let me give you a word of advice. In the future, if Miss Kim is ever treated unfairly at your company, be prepared for your family to disappear from the city." Helen rushed to reassure him.
No need to worry. No one will touch her position.
Good. James held out his business card to Kim. "Miss Kim, if you need help, feel free to give me a call anytime." Everyone stared at James and Mr. Mullen as they left the rooftop. "Grandma, if there's nothing else you'd like to discuss, me and Stephen will be leaving," Kim said. After what happened today, she felt like she had grown further apart from Helen. Helen stopped them.
"Kim, you couldn't possibly be thinking that just because you have James on your side that you're suddenly above everyone else, right?"
"Of course not."
"Fine. Let me tell you this. As long as I'm alive, I'll be in charge of this family. You had better behave yourself."
Helen walked past Kim and Stephen, followed by Harry and the rest of the Cassidy family. Helen didn't want to stay here any longer than she had to. When they went downstairs, Harry opened the car door for Helen before getting in the back seat. As if having the owner of Global Investment as her support wasn't enough, she now has James too. How can Kim be this lucky? Feels like all the powerful people in the city are joining her side. It'll be harder to deal with her in the future. Helen smiled slyly.
"Rather than Kim, what Stephen did was beyond my expectations. He's been acting strangely these days. Leaving him by Kim's side won't do us any good. Let's pay Natalie a visit."
Late in the afternoon, Natalie was surprised to see Helen and Harry standing outside the door.
"Mom, what are you doing here?" Natalie was nervous when Helen didn't say anything. Are you looking for Kim? She hasn't been back since she went to work this morning. You know how hard-working she is. Helen remained silent. She walked past Natalie and sat on the couch in the living room.
Natalie, how many years have passed since you married into this family? I believe it's been more than 30 years.
Harry sat next to Helen, while Natalie took a seat across from them.
33 years. It's been that long already, huh? I'm going to be frank with you. It's not easy to earn money these days. Aren't you afraid of having Stephen lingering around your daughter?
What do you mean?
Kim is capable, and she has a wealthy supporter. There's nothing she wouldn't be able to do in the future. But having Stephen as her husband will hold her back. Doesn't it seem like Stephen has an ulterior motive for staying by her side? Recently, Kim's been listening to him instead of her own grandmother. That's not necessarily a good thing. Don't you agree?
Harry chimed in. Grandma's right. Once Kim becomes the head of the family, having a husband like Stephen will ruin her reputation. And that means our family's image will be tarnished as well. If Stephen continues to stay here, I'm afraid Grandma might have to reconsider having Kim as her successor. Natalie started panicking when she heard that this might affect Kim's position as the successor. Mom, that's not right. You publicly named Kim as the successor at the press conference. You can't go back on your word. It hadn't been long since Natalie told everyone she knew about Kim's achievements. If Helen were to retract her statement and name someone else as her successor, she and Kim would be humiliated.
Natalie, there's a simple solution to this problem, Helen said. All you have to do is come up with a way to kick Stephen out of your house. This is for you, Kim, and the Cassidy family.
Aunt Natalie, if you don't get rid of Stephen now, I'm afraid the rest of the family won't agree to Kim being the successor much longer, Harry added. To Natalie, Stephen was nothing but dead weight. He was limiting her daughter's future. I understand. I'll try to think of a way to kick him out of our house.
Good answer. I'll be going now. I trust that you'll take care of it.
Helen glanced at Harry, who took this as their cue to leave. At this time, Kim and Stephen were having dinner together at Christina's hotel. Thank you for what you did today, Kim said. Stephen pretended to be confused. Why are you thanking me? Still playing dumb with me? I'm thanking you for helping me at the Century Garden. I don't know how you convinced James to come, but either way, I'm glad you were with me. If Kim hadn't decided to ask Stephen to come with her, she would have fallen into the trap that Helen and Harry had meticulously set up. Not only would she have been fired from the company, she might have also been kicked out of the family. Stephen took a sip of wine. He didn't confirm nor deny his involvement. You're beautiful, and you're kind. It's natural for people to want to help you. Kim looked down at her hands to hide her embarrassment. Can you close your eyes? This time, Stephen was genuinely confused. What's the matter? Don't ask questions, and just do what I said. All right. Stephen obediently closed his eyes, but he continued to chatter. Are you trying to surprise me with a gift? You didn't have to get me anything. We're husband and wife. Kim leaned over and pressed a kiss to his cheek, effectively shutting him up. Stephen's eyes snapped open as he touched his face in disbelief. Kim averted her gaze. Don't think too much. I was just expressing my gratitude. If it weren't for Stephen, she might have burst into tears in front of the entire family today. He was the only one on her side when she was forced into a corner. She didn't regret giving him her first kiss. Kim, it was too sudden, so I didn't have time to prepare myself. Can you maybe do it again? Anticipation was written all over Stephen's face. You're shameless, Kim chided. After a moment, she met his gaze and added, Actually, there's something I've been meaning to clarify. I've never met the owner of Global Investment before. There's nothing going on between me and him. When I meet him, I'll return the necklace and the villa. Kim was worried that if she didn't explain herself now, Stephen would misunderstand further down the line. He fiddled with his glass before looking at her with a serious expression. Since you've been so honest with me, I also have something to say. To tell you the truth, I've been hiding something from you.
The serious look on Stephen's face piqued Kim's interest. Okay, what is it? I'm actually not the owner of Global Investments Fan. Oh, is that all? When you first announced that to the family, I was really surprised. I even suspected that he sent you here as a spy. But after thinking about it later, I realized that no one would fall for a spy like you, Kim teased with a smile. As the two of them chatted, a familiar voice called out to Stephen. He turned around and saw Tiffany approaching their table. She was the pianist from last week. What a coincidence, Stephen said. He signaled to her with his eyes not to expose him. Kim also remembered Tiffany, but she was surprised that she and Stephen were on such friendly terms. Aside from Stephen critiquing Tiffany's performance, they didn't talk to each other that much. Are you two friends? Tiffany didn't hesitate to sit next to Stephen. That's right, Miss Kim. I'm so envious you have such an amazing husband. Kim's mood soured when she saw how close Stephen and Tiffany were. Tiffany quickly lost interest in Kim. She looked at Stephen with sparkling eyes. Where have you been? I've been looking for you. You haven't contacted me ever since that day. Stephen realized that Kim might misunderstand Tiffany's words. Why are you looking for me? Also, please don't talk as if we meet often. We've only met once, and that was at the hotel last week. Stephen gave Kim an apologetic look. He had only just made substantial progress with his wife. Why did Tiffany have to come out of nowhere and ruin everything? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have revealed his piano skills to her. Tiffany noticed the awkward atmosphere. She looked at Kim and then at Stephen. I think I came at a bad time. Since you're not free today, how about we add each other on social media? It'll be more convenient for us to communicate if anything were to happen. I don't think that's necessary. Before Stephen could stop her, the phone in his pocket fell into Tiffany's hands. She returned his phone a minute later. It's done. By the way, I left you a message so you know it's me. It says, Beautiful Tiffany. Tiffany moved closer to Stephen and whispered in his ear. I'm leaving now. Let's meet again when you're free. Kim glared at Tiffany's back as she walked away. What did she say before she left? Stephen hesitated. Nothing much. He couldn't tell Kim what Tiffany said. That would be the end of him. Since Stephen didn't want to tell her the truth, Kim grabbed her handbag and headed to the door. Stephen silently cursed Tiffany as he ran after Kim. Wait for me! Kim was still angry after they got home. When she opened the door, the mess on the floor took her by surprise. Mom, what are you doing? Why did you move all of Stephen's things into the living room? Stephen followed Kim inside. He frowned when he saw his clothes scattered on the floor. Natalie got up from the couch when she saw Stephen. It's obviously because I need to kick him out of the house. Kim suppressed her anger and tried to be as patient as she possibly could. Stephen is my husband. Where is he supposed to go? Who are you calling your husband? Kim, don't forget. For the past 3 years, he's been freeloading off of us. Because of him, our family is about to become the laughingstock of the city. Not only that, he's also hindering your future success. I've had enough. Laughingstock? Hindering my future? Mom, have you ever evaluated Stephen from a perspective that doesn't involve his career and finances? He cooks, cleans, and takes care of the house whether we're busy or not. What has he done wrong? Stephen and I are married. If you really want to kick him out, then I'll leave with him. Kim was already in a bad mood since their run-in with Tiffany. She didn't expect an even bigger problem waiting for them at home. She was so close to losing her patience. Kim, I'm doing this for your own good. Having him by your side will only hold you back. That's not for you to decide, Kim yelled. Stephen glanced at the kitchen and noticed 2 glasses of water on the table. Mom, did Grandma come over? Natalie was startled when he exposed her, but she quickly regained her composure. Why does that matter? The point is that I've endured your presence for 3 years. If I were you, I would have been too embarrassed and left on my own a long time ago. I see. But even if I leave today, by the end of the month at the latest, you and Grandma will be begging me to come back. Natalie laughed as if she had just heard the funniest joke. That will never happen. Stephen, you can't leave like this. Kim said. Don't worry, it'll only be for a few days. I'll be back before you know it. Kim was frustrated when she couldn't get through to him. Fine, do whatever you want. I don't care. Then I'll be leaving first. Call me if you need me, Stephen whispered. He gave Natalie a cold look. Mom, I'll send you the address. Don't get lost when you come to find me. With that, Stephen left the house without looking back. Natalie was confident that she would never have to look for him. Kim, since he's gone, shouldn't you divorce him now? Even if I die, I won't divorce Stephen, Kim shouted. She stormed off to her room and slammed the door behind her. She couldn't understand why he willingly left without putting up a fight. After Stephen left the house, he drove to Colin's house. I'll be staying here for the next few days. Colin was flattered to have the Grand Palace Master at his residence. Understood. I'll make arrangements. It's fine. I can just stay in the room next to Matthew's. How's he doing, by the way? Don't worry, Mr. Adams. He's been recovering well. With my skills, it won't be long before he makes a full recovery, Colin said proudly. When Stephen opened the door, he saw Matthew exercising on the floor. He took a seat at the table and poured himself a glass of water. Looks like you're feeling better. Matthew got to his feet. I owe you my life, Stephen. Don't hesitate to give me orders. I'll fulfill them to the best of my ability. It wasn't that big of a deal. Anyway, I have some free time for the next few days. I'll help you with what you want to do. I'm not sure if this is the right time for that. He controls the underworld in San Francisco. It won't be easy to get close to him, much less get rid of him. You don't have to worry about that. It'll be good enough as long as you can recognize him. I'll never forget his face, Matthew said bitterly. Good. Rest up tonight. We'll leave tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. Stephen left and went to the room next door. Jack and Colin were waiting for him inside. Mr. Adams, you don't have to personally deal with them yourself. If you just say the word, we'll annihilate them any time, Jack advised. Colin nodded in agreement. He's right. There's really no need for you to risk your life. If anything happens to you, the world will be overrun with chaos and panic. Stephen didn't respond to their warnings. Do you know who wants to kill Matthew? Who's in charge of San Francisco's underworld? Jack and Colin exchanged a glance. He used to have a different surname, but he currently goes by Roland Adams. Roland was one of the Adams family's chess pieces. Their goal was to control San Francisco's underworld behind the scenes to start several mysterious businesses. With Roland as their figurehead, they made at least $100 billion worth of income every year. Stephen didn't have any plans of visiting Washington, D.C. right now. Matthew's enemy turning out to be Roland was in his favor. Getting rid of Roland meant destroying one of the Adam family's means of profit and helping Matthew get his revenge. This would be killing two birds with one stone. The next day, Jack drove Stephen and Matthew out of the city to a restaurant located in a shady neighborhood of San Francisco. You can go back. Matthew and I will handle this, Stephen said. Even though Jack was worried, he could only follow Stephen's instructions. After Jack left, they went inside the restaurant and ordered a few dishes. While they were eating, Matthew scanned the interior and noticed the strange atmosphere. Besides them two, everyone else appeared to be ruffians. Several of them were covered in tattoos. Last night, the palace had sent Stephen detailed information regarding San Francisco's underworld. He read through as much as he could to familiarize himself with their hierarchy and their bases in the city. This wasn't an ordinary restaurant. It was more of a place where people from the underworld gathered. The boss of this restaurant was a man named Stanley. He was one of Roland's 36 subordinates. Because he wasn't skilled in flattery, he was gradually alienated from Roland and his other subordinates. Wait, Stephen, did you come here to... Before Matthew could finish his sentence, Stephen called out to the cashier. Boss, pay up! The cashier stood up from behind the desk. What are you yelling for? What do you mean, pay up? You're the customer. Stephen continued to shout without restraint. Do you work here? Shouldn't you come over and take a look at the problem? The cashier strode over to their table and glared at Stephen and Matthew. These idiots didn't know who they were messing with.
Causing trouble at this restaurant was a death sentence. Stephen pointed to one of the dishes on the table. Look carefully. There's a strand of hair. Then, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he pulled a strand of hair from Matthew's head and put it on the plate. The cashier waved his hand, and 10 people carrying iron rods surrounded the table. What are you two playing at? Do you know who owns this restaurant? Stanley. Anyone who hears his name around these parts would know better than to run their mouths. Stephen drummed his fingers on the table. Is this considered provoking your boss? Let me show you what it really means to provoke someone. Stephen grabbed a glass of water and threw it at the cashier with lightning speed. The glass collided with the cashier's head, and he dropped to the floor. The people surrounding their table took a cautious step back. This seemingly harmless young man was unexpectedly violent. Matthew was just as surprised as they were. So this was the infamous good-for-nothing son-in-law of the Cassidy family. Wouldn't they be scared to death if they were to find out what he was really like? The cashier clutched his head and screamed, Why are you all standing around? Get him! The group of brawny men rushed at Stephen with their iron rods in hand. Matthew was stunned when Stephen didn't move. Was he scared out of his mind? What happened to his confidence from earlier? What are you doing? Let's get out of here! Matthew grabbed Stephen's arm, planning to drag him out of the restaurant. But no matter how much strength he used, Stephen didn't budge an inch. Calm down, Stephen said. He slammed his fist on the table, and the plates, cups, and eating utensils flew into the air. Stephen snatched a handful of knives and forks and flung it at the group of men. They whizzed through the air and pierced their hands. One by one, the iron rods clattered to the floor. Terrified screams filled the restaurant. The cashier trembled in fear. Who are you? Stephen didn't reply. He stood up and stepped on the cashier's chest, pinning him to the floor. Tell me, where's Stanley? Stephen's killing intent made the cashier unable to refuse. He's at an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs, he stuttered. Stephen looked back at Matthew. Let's go. He stepped over the cashier and headed for the door. Matthew glanced at the group of men, who were holding their arms in pain, before following Stephen out of the restaurant. Ever since we left the city, it feels like you've become a completely different person. Stephen chuckled. Maybe this is the real me. Matthew gave him a thoughtful look. In Los Angeles, Stephen was an ordinary son-in-law. But outside of the city, he was a fearsome man who was not to be trifled with. Fortunately, they started out as friends. Otherwise, Matthew would have subconsciously put his guard up whenever he was with Stephen after discovering this side of him. Stanley was with a young woman at the abandoned warehouse. Her eyes were covered with a blindfold, and her hands were tied behind her back. You'd better behave. If you act out of line, don't blame me for playing rough. I may have no interest in you, but the people around me sure will. The woman retreated to a corner. Don't hold this against me. Roland was the one who told me to kidnap you. I'm just his lackey. Who am I to go against his orders? But don't worry, your father is the head of the Meyer family. As long as he gives us $1 billion, I guarantee that you'll be able to leave this place safely. Stanley glanced at his phone when it rang. Speak of the devil, it's your father. When Stanley picked up, a commanding voice sounded from the other end of the line. Where is my daughter? Let her go, and I can pretend like this never happened. I don't think you understand the position you're in. Your daughter is with us. You don't have the right to make demands. Give us $1 billion if you don't want to see your daughter's corpse floating in the river tomorrow. After Stanley hung up, someone knocked on the door. He wasn't expecting anyone, so whoever was outside intended to cause trouble. Stanley instructed one of his people to keep an eye on the woman before heading to the door with the others. Before they could make it there, the metal door toppled over and collapsed on the floor in a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, Stephen took a step into the warehouse. Are you Stanley? Stanley didn't recognize him, so he was afraid of acting rashly against someone with this much strength. Yes, that's me. May I ask who you are? Who I am is of no concern to you. I'll give you 3 options. 1, die. 2, surrender. 3, work for me.
Stanley looked past him and spotted Matthew. Shouldn't he be dead? Are you Matthew's subordinate? Did he ask you for help? Seeing as you came without backup, you must have a death wish.
Stanley waved his hand, and his people charged at them. I'll leave these small fries to you, Stephen said.
Got it.
Instead of tackling the group head-on, Matthew leapt into the air and landed directly in the middle of the fray. Stephen slowly walked up to Stanley. I know why you're here. You're bolder than you look. Where did you get the courage to kidnap the daughter of one of the top families in San Francisco? Besides information on the underworld, the palace had also sent Stephen information on their members' recent movements. It was detailed and straight to the point. Stanley tensed. Their plan was highly confidential. Not just anyone could have caught wind of it.
How did you find out about that?
Matthew made quick work of Stanley's men and returned to Stephen's side. Haven't you realized your situation yet? Why do you think Roland dared to mess with the Meyer family? It's because he never planned on taking responsibility.
What are you trying to say, Matthew?
Roland wants to get rid of you. After you get the $1 billion, he'll take the money and force you to take the blame. Even if you reveal Roland as the mastermind, who will believe you? There's no evidence. Of course, things don't have to play out this way. Turn your back and cut all ties with him. Stanley thought it over. Ever since he kidnapped the daughter of the Meyer family, the entire city has been in an uproar. Every media outlet was fighting over the chance to report on the kidnapping. The situation was getting out of hand. Every time Stanley gave Roland a call, his only concern was whether he had received the money or not. It was safe to say that Roland was in a rush to run off with the money and put the blame on his shoulders. Stanley wasted no time and got on his knees. Matthew, I'll be your loyal follower. If you're planning to get rid of Roland, then count me in. You're pledging your loyalty to the wrong person, Matthew gestured to Stephen. He's the real boss. Stanley shifted his gaze to Stephen. I'll gladly work for you. Stephen was indifferent as he held out his hand. Get up and give me your bank card. Stanley was confused, but he took out a card from his wallet and gave it to him anyway. Stephen took a picture and sent a message before tossing Stanley his card. Leave the girl to me and report back to Roland. Report? I can't go back empty-handed. I just asked someone to wire you $1 billion. Give that money to Roland. Stanley stared at Stephen as he walked into the warehouse. He had originally thought that Matthew was following some kind of big shot, but it turned out to be a brat who was in over his head. After leaving this place, Stanley planned to take his people and go into hiding. Before he could do anything, his phone vibrated, notifying him of an incoming text. Stanley's hand shook when he read the message. He had just received $1 billion. Who in the world could transfer $1 billion with a single message? And to a stranger, no less. The more Stanley thought about it, the more excited he became. Wouldn't it be a blessing to work for such an incredible person? Stanley motioned for his people to get up and follow him out of the warehouse. Matthew knew that Stanley had received the $1 billion, as promised from his reaction when he checked the phone. Wasn't that a bit hasty? What if he runs away with your money? It's only a small amount. Besides, he'll die if he betrays me. $1 billion was a small amount? Matthew was beginning to feel like he never knew Stephen at all. As they went further inside, they noticed a young woman in the corner. Stephen thought she looked familiar, but didn't think too much of it. Untie her. Matthew nodded and went over to the woman. He untied the rope and removed the blindfold. After she was freed, she rubbed her wrists and ankles. Did you two come to save me? No, we just happened to be passing by. You should hurry up and go home, Matthew said. The woman looked at Matthew and then at Stephen, who stood close by. Her eyes widened when she recognized Stephen. She ran over and hugged him from behind. Is it really you, Stephen? You're here because you came to save me, right? Stephen struggled to get her off of him. Let go of me. When he finally managed to pull her arms away and turned around to face her, he was surprised to see who it was. Tiffany, Why is it you again?
Hey, stop pretending. You came here on purpose because you knew that I was in danger. What do you mean you were just passing by? I don't believe that one bit. Oh yeah, do you want to divorce Kim and take me as your wife instead?
Stephen felt a headache coming on. Matthew, take her home. I'll wait for you at the hotel. Tiffany quickly hid behind Stephen.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming with you.
We have important matters to take care of, Matthew said sternly. Come with me. I'll take you home. Tiffany put her hands on her hips.
Important matters? Stephen, bring me along. I'm the daughter of the Meyer family. Everyone will listen to you if I tell them my name.
Stephen ignored her and walked away. Matthew gave Tiffany an unimpressed look. If you're really that powerful, how did you let yourself get kidnapped and taken to the middle of nowhere? Tiffany was at a loss for words, but thinking of a comeback wasn't important right now. When she saw Stephen getting further and further away, she had no choice but to use her last resort.
Stephen, if you don't take me with you, I'll go back to Los Angeles and tell Kim that you were fooling around with me on a business trip.
Stephen stopped and gritted his teeth. He never should have commented on Tiffany's performance, nor should he have shown her his piano skills. Fine, you can come. Tiffany smiled triumphantly and ran to catch up with him.
At least you're sensible.
Stephen glanced at her. I have a question. Do you have a twin? Compared to your personality when I met you as a pianist, why are you now so rude?
Are you interested? Mr. Glenn taught me that. He told me one has to be dignified and graceful when playing the piano. This is the real me.
Your acting deserves an Oscar. Tiffany grinned.
I also want to ask you a question. Why did you marry into the Cassidy family? They're small compared to my family.
Because the meals that Kim's family prepares are delicious. His answer left Tiffany speechless. That evening, Tiffany refused to leave Stephen's side. There was a knock on the door. When Stephen opened the door, it surprised Tiffany to see her kidnapper kneeling on the floor.
Stephen, are you one of the bad guys?
Stephen ignored Tiffany and told Stanley to come in. Yes, sir. Stanley stood up and went inside, only to kneel in front of Stephen again. Tiffany knew that Stephen was a member of one of the largest underworld organizations, the Black Dragon Guild. Why would he treat Stephen with respect? I'm very sorry for questioning you in the afternoon. I deserve to die 1,000 deaths for disrespecting you. Okay, did you do what I told you to? Yes, I've already sent Roland the $1 billion you gave me, and I also told him that I let Tiffany go. Good work. Head back to the Black Dragon Guild and go about your daily life. Find an opportunity to bring me Roland's account book. I'll deal with them in 2 days. Stephen planned on using the account books to see if there were any discrepancies in the transactions between Roland and the Addams family. Understood, Stanley said. After he left the room in a hurry, Tiffany immediately started bombarding Stephen with questions.
Did you give $1 billion to Roland? Just to save me? Wait, you can't be thinking of killing him, right? He has the entire underworld in San Francisco under his control. Even my dad can't do whatever he wants when it comes to Roland.
There were also questions that Tiffany didn't voice, like where did the $1 billion come from? And weren't you just a useless son-in-law? Stephen ignored all of her questions. It's getting late. You can either leave or sleep with me. His words caught Tiffany off guard. She glared at Stephen before running out of the room. Sooner or later, she would take him down. At that time, he wouldn't dare to keep any secrets from her. The next day, Stephen went downstairs for lunch with Matthew and Tiffany. How many casinos does the Black Dragon Guild have in this city? As far as I know, they have at least 100 casinos, Matthew said. There's a large casino located in the eastern, western, northern, and southern parts of the city. I heard they make hundreds of millions every day. Are you asking because you want to try our hand at gambling? Yeah, it's about time I take back my $1 billion. It'll be a waste to leave it in that guy's hands. All right, we need to get ready and leave soon. There are 4 main casinos, so we don't have much time. Stephen, it's fine if you want to go, but I'm someone that Roland wants to kill,
and Tiffany is someone he ordered Stanley to kidnap. Stephen's eyes twinkled with amusement. Don't worry, I'll dress you two up. I guarantee that no one will be able to recognize you. When he traveled with the priest in the past, he had learned a thing or two about disguises. Matthew and Tiffany exchanged a glance. They had a feeling that whatever Stephen had planned for them couldn't be anything good. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Helen paid Natalie another visit.
Well done. Someone like Stephen doesn't deserve to stay here. He only knows how to bring shame to our family.
I agree. All right, now that Stephen's not here anymore, will Kim be able to keep her position as vice president?
Of course,
Helen replied with a smile. However, what she didn't tell Natalie was that now that Stephen was out of the picture, Kim no longer had his support or the backing of the owner of Global Investment. Kim would have no choice but to go along with her demands. Thank you, Mom. They were interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. Natalie went to open the door. A man in a suit was standing outside. Good afternoon. I'm from the real estate company that manages these villas. Oh, so you're a real estate agent. Please come in and have a seat. The agent accepted her invitation and took a seat on the couch. I won't bother you any longer than I have to. I'm here to collect the property fees on behalf of the company. Is that all? I thought there was a bigger problem. All right, tell me how much it is. I'll give you enough for the year so you don't have to come every month. The Cassidy family is well known in this city, so we can't have people misunderstanding that we can't afford to pay for our own properties. Isn't that right, Mom?
That's right. Since you kicked Stephen out of the house, I'll help you pay this month's property fees. Consider it as my gift to you.
Helen would take over this villa sooner or later, so she should take advantage of this opportunity and build a good relationship with the agent. You have my thanks. Natalie turned back to the agent. See, our Cassidy family has more than enough to pay the fees. How much is it? Of course, I'm well aware that you're one of the top families in the city. A family of your caliber will only consider the fees as a small amount. The agent took out a document from his briefcase. Let me see. The fees for this villa is $5 million per month, while the cost of the villa on the first level is $3 million. Natalie and Helen were shocked beyond words. $5 million a month would be $60 million a year. Where would they get this amount of money from? $5 million a month? Natalie exclaimed. Are you sure this is legal? Is there any company that charges as much as you do? If you're messing around, I can file a complaint with the Bureau of Commodity Prices right now. The agent smiled. Our contracts have been approved by the Bureau of Commodity Prices. I can assure you that they're up to date with the recent guidelines. Helen shook her head.
That doesn't sound right. I heard from one of the families that used to live here that the property fees were only $100,000 a month.
Miss Helen, there used to be many families living here, but now there's only 2. Helen looked at Natalie in confusion. Then, who paid last month's fees? I don't know, but I remember seeing Stephen at the real estate company last month. I bumped into him just as he was leaving.
That's impossible. If he had that kind of money, why would he marry into our family?
Helen turned to the agent.
Please tell us who paid last month.
Mr. Adams, of course. He's the owner of these villas.
Mr. Adams? Are you referring to Stephen?
The agent gave them a strange look. Yes, Stephen is Mr. Adams' first name. You two seem a little confused. Aren't you his relatives? I assumed you were aware that Mr. Adams is the owner of these villas. Doesn't that mean that Stephen is the owner of Global Investment? Natalie exclaimed.
No, that doesn't make sense. Everyone's been calling him useless for the past 3 years, but he's never once talked back. How could he possess that much wealth?
A thought struck Helen.
Wait, Stephen said he's a fan of the owner of Global Investment. Maybe they meet often, and that's what people misunderstood, that he's rich too.
You're right, Mom. This must be one of Stephen's tricks. He really knows how to take advantage of other people. How could he parade around like he's the owner of these villas?
That's not important right now. We need to get him to come back. The owner of Global Investment probably left his card or something with Stephen, and he must have wanted to keep that money for himself.
Natalie took out her phone and dialed Stephen's number. Don't worry, Mom. I'll give him a call.
When the call went through, Natalie yelled into the phone. "Where are you? Come back and pay the property fees. If the owner of Global Investment finds out you've taken his money, he won't let you go." Stephen only scoffed in response before hanging up. Natalie stared at her phone when the line went dead. "How dare you hang up on me?" She called again, but Stephen had turned off his phone. The agent was getting impatient. "Excuse me, about the property fees?" Natalie opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. Helen responded in place of Natalie.
"It's not a big amount, but we don't have our checkbook with us. Please head back for today. We'll send someone over to pay it in 2 days."
"I understand. I'll be waiting at the real estate company." The agent said his goodbyes and left.
"I don't care how you do it, but you have to bring him back within 2 days,"
Helen demanded. This was the first time she had been this humiliated. Natalie reluctantly agreed. Helen was the one who told her to kick Stephen out of the house. Why was she shifting the blame onto her? At this time, Stephen was in front of a casino with 2 ladies. One of the ladies was wearing heavy makeup, and she was giving Stephen an exasperated look. "Was this really necessary?" The lady's deep voice oddly resembled Matthew's. The other lady, whose voice strangely sounded like Tiffany's, crossed her arms in annoyance. "Did you do this because you're holding a grudge against me?" There was nothing out of the ordinary about her, but if someone were to take a closer look, they would realize that she was wearing multiple layers beneath her coat. Stephen forced himself not to laugh. "Let's go inside." He led them into the casino. The interior was grand, and the lighting accentuated the luxurious furnishings. The casino was bustling with people, and the atmosphere was lively. Tiffany followed Stephen closely. "Are you sure you can do it? My dad told me it's not easy for people to win here." Matthew looked around. He never had much experience with gambling, not even when he was at the head of San Francisco's underworld. "It looks complicated. They probably have a lot of tricks set up. Are you confident in winning?" Stephen shrugged. "I don't know. It's my first time here." Tiffany and Matthew were stunned. This was his first time here? Then why was he so confident that he would win back his $1 billion? More importantly, he even disguised them in this strange getup. If he didn't win, wouldn't that mean this was all for nothing? Stephen pointed to a table not far away. "Why are you guys being so fussy? Come on, let's get down to business. Let's go and gamble." "Why do I feel like he's unreliable?" Tiffany muttered. Despite his doubts, Matthew defended Stephen. "Don't worry, I believe in him." In the brief second they took their eyes off of Stephen, he disappeared into the crowd. Not even 1 minute later, the sound of arguing sounded from one of the tables. A man wearing a gold chain around his neck was cursing at Stephen. "You don't know the first thing about casinos. Why are you betting with money? The first thing you do when you come to a place like this should be exchanging your money for chips. If you don't even know something as simple as that, you should just leave." Tiffany and Matthew looked at each other before squeezing through the crowd. "What's going on?" Matthew whispered. Stephen gave them a confused looks. "Do I need chips to gamble?" Tiffany and Matthew stared at him in disbelief. The man laughed when he saw Tiffany and Matthew. "You really are a weirdo. You even brought these 2 strange-looking people into the casino." The woman standing beside the man leaned against him. "Do you think everyone is as rich and successful as you are? Not everyone has the chance to be accompanied by a beautiful partner like me." Tiffany sized up the woman. If she weren't in disguise, this woman wouldn't have had the nerve to say that in front of her. Stephen couldn't be bothered to argue with the man. He handed his card to Matthew. "Help me exchange my money for chips." The man laughed as he took out several big bags of chips. "No need to bother the staff. I have lots of chips here. Tell me how much you want." Then why don't you give me 100 million worth of chips to start out?" Stephen's bold answer attracted many people's attention. "He's young. I'm guessing he's rich second-generation son from some unknown corporation." "I don't think so. I don't recognize any of the brands he's wearing. They're probably dirt cheap." "He's also here with 2 women who have no fashion sense." "Agreed. I have a feeling he's a complete lunatic."
The man stood up from the table. The chips he had were worth at most a few million. Asking for 100 million was the same as insulting him. "Are you picking a fight?" The woman by his side grabbed his arm. "Darling, why bother with a fool? In my opinion, he's only talking big because he saw a pile of chips on the table. I doubt he has the money." Stephen ignored them and told Matthew to bring back some chips. Matthew disappeared into the crowd. He came back 3 minutes later, and there was nothing in his hands. The man laughed. "Where are your chips? I knew you couldn't afford 100 million. However, he froze when the manager of the casino, George, walked over to Stephen with a box in his hand. There was a huge smile plastered on his face. "Here are 100 chips. Each chip is worth 1 million. Tiffany took this chance to talk back to the man.
"See that? Your pile of chips are worth nothing compared to his. You think you're rich with 3 million? After today, I bet you won't ever see 100 million again."
"Just because he has the money doesn't mean he knows how to gamble," the man's partner shot back. "Let's see what he'll do once he loses all his money." Stephen took a chip from the box that George had. "May we begin?" George asked. "Any time," Stephen said. George nodded and gave the dealer a meaningful look. The dealer got the hint and shook the cups with the dice inside. Soon, he flipped the cup over and slammed it on the table. The left side of the table was labeled small, which represented the numbers 1, 2, and 3. The right side was labeled big, which represented the numbers 4, 5, and 6. Stephen motioned for the man to bet first. "I have a feeling your luck's not that great. Make your bet. I'll choose the opposite." The man held in his anger and pushed his chips to the right side of the table. "I'll bet 100 on big." Matthew leaned in and whispered, "Stephen, should I ask the manager to give you smaller chips? If you use this one, it'll be worth 1 million. The man urged them to hurry up when he noticed them whispering. "Why are you hesitating? Didn't you say you'd bet on the opposite side?" The entire casino waited for Stephen's answer. They were curious as to how much he would bet. To everyone's surprise, Stephen took the box and poured all the chips onto the table. Then, he pushed the chips to the left side. "I'll bet 100 million on small." Tiffany rushed back to the chips. "Don't be hasty. Let's take it slow. There's no need to rush." When Stephen stopped her, she glared at him. "Where are you getting your confidence from?" "I'm not confident in myself. I'm confident in his bad luck." When George saw Stephen bet 100 million in chips, his smile widened. He secretly gave the dealer another look. The dealer subtly reached for a switch under the table before placing a hand on the cup. After this, he would receive a big commission. His manager might raise his salary, and he might even be promoted. Tiffany covered her face with her hands. She was too afraid to look at the dice. The onlookers held their breath as they stared at the cup. When the dealer removed the cup, he was so shocked to see the number 3 on the dice. He announced the result with a slight tremble to his voice. "It's small." Everyone started talking at once. "Isn't that guy way too lucky? He even bet 100 million like it was chump change. I'll never be able to earn 100 million in my life. Who exactly is he? Why haven't I seen him before in San Francisco?" George didn't expect this outcome. If the casinos were to lose 100 million, he would probably lose his life. He forced a laugh. "Luck is on your side today. Why don't you have another round?" Stephen glanced at the man. "That will depend on him." When the man hesitated, George glared at him. The man was well aware of who was behind this casino, so he wasn't in a position to refuse. I'll bet 10,000 on big." "Since you've raised the stakes, I'll do the same." Stephen pushed his chips to the left side. "I'll bet 200 million on small." Tiffany only had 5 minutes to savor the excitement of Stephen's win before he dropped 200 million worth of chips on the table. She hurriedly tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. "It'll be fine. His bad luck is endless," Stephen said casually. George narrowed his eyes at the dealer. This was his last chance. If something unexpected happened again,
This would be the end.
Begin.
The dealer nervously shook the cup. After seeing Stephen win effortlessly the first time, many people at the casino crowded behind him and supported him. As for the man who had bet on big, he didn't think a small number would appear again. This would be his win. The dealer flipped the cup onto the table. He was once again shocked when he removed the cup and revealed the number. It was the number 1, another small number.
You won again!
Tiffany yelled excitedly.
You're amazing, Stephen!
Matthew looked on in shock. Since when was it this easy to earn money at a casino? The gamblers around them cheered for Stephen and mocked the man for losing twice in a row. George snapped his fingers, and several security guards surrounded the dealer. "Throw him out and toss him into the sea." The security guards dragged the dealer out of the casino as instructed. George forced a smile and turned to Stephen. "Your luck is impressive. Why don't you go for another round?" "Like I said, that will depend on if he wants to bet," Stephen said. The man broke out in a cold sweat when he saw the hint of warning in George's eyes. He silently cursed Stephen. He could bet however many times he wanted, but why did he have to drag other people into this? The man threw all of his chips onto the table and ran out of the casino with his partner. He valued his life over his money. Tiffany thought she had figured out Stephen's plan and was prepared for him to go all out in the same fashion. But instead of continuing with the same game, he placed his bets for another game. "This time, I'll bet on the numbers of 3 dice. 1, 1, and 3. The onlookers shook their heads and sighed. He's crazy. Does he think this game's as easy as the last one? I've been going to casinos for decades, and I rarely see this game being played. He's inexperienced. Looks like he's getting ahead of himself because he won 2 times. Besides, doesn't he know how this casino operates? There's no way they'll let him win so easily." "I like your confidence," George praised. He smirked as he walked behind the table and took on the dealer position. Everyone looked at Stephen with pity. Is George going to play? That young man will lose for sure. George has won every gambling competition for 3 consecutive years. They say that this year, he'll be participating in the international gambling competition. I thought that young man was smarter than this. Who knew he would turn out to be an amateur? I hope he doesn't cry when he loses later. Tiffany had also heard of George's fame.
"This is cheating. You already know this is his first time here. Don't you think this is unfair?"
George didn't pay her any mind as he put 3 dice into the cup. "And why is that relevant? You know the rules of this casino, don't you?" Matthew pulled Tiffany back. The security guards around them were watching their every move. "Stop messing around. This casino has its own rules. If we cross the line, they'll use that as an excuse to get rid of us." Tiffany sighed helplessly. Stephen was too impulsive for his own good. Stephen tapped the table to get George's attention. "What's with all the talking? Hurry up and shake it. Actually, hold on. I'm curious as to how wealthy this casino is. How about this? I'll bet 400 million. If I win, you'll have to give me 2 billion. George was hesitant, but he eventually gave in. "Please wait. I'll have to check on the other 3 casinos' cash flow." Less than 1 hour later, George returned. Roland had approved his request for 2 billion. He showed Stephen the balance on his phone. "See for yourself." "Great, let's begin." George picked up the cups and shook the dice. His ears picked up on the distinct sound of the dice clacking against each other. "I've been playing this game since I was 3. When I was 5, I could already hear the sound of the dice and their respective numbers. Do you really think you stand a chance against me? No matter how skilled you are, your bad luck is on par with my previous opponent." George had no interest in arguing with Stephen. He continued to shake the dice. The onlookers were blown away by his superb technique. George slammed the cup on the table, snapping everyone out of their trance. "Would you believe me if I told you that I can guess the number of each dice? The first dice is 1. George moved the cup slightly, revealing the first dice. He was right. The second dice is also 1. George revealed the second dice. He was right again. You bet that the numbers would be 1, 1, and 3. So far, you got the first 2 correct. Unfortunately, the last dice won't be the number 3. George revealed the 3rd dice. He didn't even have to look to confirm that Stephen had just lost the bet. I told you, you didn't stand a chance. You're too inexperienced to compete with a pro like me. Stephen grinned as he pointed to the dice. Are you blind? Why don't you take a closer look?
What's the point? I already know what it is. But when George looked down, he was shocked to see the number 3. How is this possible? The numbers should have been 1, 1, and 2. Why had the last number changed to a 3? George slammed his hands on the table, unwilling to admit defeat. Do you know what kind of place this is? How dare you cheat? This is a famous casino in the city, Stephen said. But who would have thought their staff would be sore losers? The dice, cups, and this table are yours. You're also the one who shook the dice. I have to ask, when could I have possibly had the chance to cheat? The other gamblers agreed with Stephen. He's right. He hasn't touched a single dice or cup the entire time. There's no way he cheated. George, are you trying to make this a big deal because you can't afford to lose? He won fair and square. A loss is a loss. Why would you accuse him of cheating? I didn't know this casino had such low standards. I don't think I'll be coming back. George clenched the cup in his hand. $2 billion was close to 3 years' worth of this casino's net profit. If he really gave Stephen the money, Roland would never let him go. But if he didn't hand it over, no one would be visiting this casino in the future. After weighing the pros and cons, George decided to compromise for the time being. I admit defeat. Give me your bank account number and I'll transfer the money. After receiving the necessary information, George wired $2 billion into Stephen's bank account through the casino's special bank system. When Stephen confirmed that the money had been sent, he stood up and prepared to leave. This won't be the last time we see each other, George warned. Stephen took out the hotel's business card from his pocket and put it on the table. This is where I'm staying. Feel free to come over for a chat. Very well. I'll take you up on your offer. After the 3 of them left, George hurried to the Black Dragon Guild. He had to apologize to Roland for losing the $2 billion. By the time Stephen returned to the hotel with Tiffany and Matthew, it was already late in the evening. Tiffany ran in front of Stephen and put her hands on her hips.
I've always been lucky. You made a fortune today, and it was all thanks to my good luck. Don't you want to thank me?
Stephen had relied on his own abilities to cheat the casino out of $2 billion. What did that have to do with her? Even so, he played along. All right, how do you want me to thank you?
Let's go to a club. I know a great place that I haven't been to in a long time.
You two go without me, Matthew said. I'm heading back to my room. It had been many years since the last time he was in San Francisco, and running into this many people from the Black Dragon Guild had brought back unpleasant memories. Stephen nodded in understanding. Okay, be careful. That left Stephen with no choice but to go with Tiffany. It hadn't been long since she was kidnapped, and he knew that she wouldn't listen to him if he told her to go home. 1 hour later, Stephen and Tiffany arrived at the bar. At the entrance, Tiffany removed her many layers and fixed her hair. When they went inside, the deafening music almost blasted Stephen's eardrums. As for Tiffany, she was excited to be here. She hadn't had a chance to stop by in years. Tiffany ran up to the stage and danced to the music. When she motioned for Stephen to join her, he shook his head. He was a little curious as to how Tiffany could have this many wildly different sides to her personality. Tiffany quickly became the center of attention. Several people went on stage to strike up a conversation, but she ignored them. While Tiffany was on stage, Stephen found a table away from the crowd. Not long after, a young man walked over. This isn't a place for someone like you. If you know what's good for you, then hurry up and leave. This is Roland's territory. Stephen pretended to be surprised. I've never heard of him, and I also have no idea who you are. The man frowned. Well, I have been abroad for the past 3 years. so it makes sense that you don't recognize me. You only need to know one thing. I'm someone you shouldn't mess with." When Tiffany spotted them arguing from a distance, she hurried over and pulled Stephen to another table.
Let's go sit over there.
The man didn't give up and followed them. He placed a few stacks of $100 bills on the table. "Are you letting your girl stand up for you? What a coward. Here's $100,000. I bet you've never seen this kind of money in your entire life. Take it and scram." Tiffany covered her mouth to suppress a laugh. She and Stephen were both amused by the piles of bills scattered on the tabletop. He had just won $2 billion from the casino. 100,000 was nothing. "Just hold on to your money. If you don't have anything important to say, clean up the table and leave. Don't bother us," Stephen said. "Doesn't this money mean anything to you?" Stephen ignored the man and raised his hand. "Manager, please bring your card reader over." The manager of the bar went up to them and held out the card reader. "Sir, what can I do for you?" Stephen looked up at the man. "Hey, didn't you say you had more money than me? Each of us will offer an amount to treat everyone here today. Let's see who'll end up with the highest amount. What do you say?" The manager grabbed the mic and announced that none of them would have to pay their bill tonight. Everyone excitedly gathered around Stephen and the man. Stephen and the man took turns to put their bank cards into the card reader and entered an amount. The manager cleared his throat and announced the amounts they offered. "Mr. Wilson offered $5 million. This is enough to cover a week's worth of expenses. Please enjoy to your heart's content. Next, we have Mr. Stephen. He offered—" The manager trailed off at the shocking amount. "Mr. Stephen offered $100 million. "It's not for the customers. I want to buy your bar." Stephen looked back at Tiffany. "Since you like this club so much, consider this as my gift for your good luck today." "You're not spending the money for the customers, so you've lost," the man pointed out. "Yeah, but so what? We never agreed to an official bet. As for the $5 million you spent, that's a small profit for my club." The man was furious at this revelation. "How dare you cheat me out of my money? Do you not know who I am? I'm Wilson Adams, and my dad is Roland Adams." Stephen and Tiffany looked at each other. Neither of them expected to bump into Roland's son tonight. Stephen stood up and pretended to be nervous. "So you are Mr. Roland's son. I'm very sorry for my rudeness." Wilson pushed Stephen aside and took his seat. "That's more like it. Let me give you some advice. Don't be so full of yourself. Just because you have some money, your life is more important." "I'll keep your words in mind. By the way, I heard your family owns most of the casinos in the city." "That's right. Do you think our income can be compared to your measly $100 million? Our casinos earn around $7 to $8 billion a year." "Really? I heard someone won $2 billion at one of your major casinos today. They only played 3 games." "Of course, $2 billion is nothing to our family." Wilson jumped out of his seat. "Wait, what did you just say? Someone played 3 games and won $2 billion? Stephen nodded seriously. "Yeah, I heard he wasn't alone. He was with 2 women." Wilson took out his phone and gave Roland a call. "Dad, I heard someone won $2 billion at our casino. Is that true?"
"So, you remember that I'm your dad. You couldn't even bother to come home after coming back from abroad. Anyway, I already sent Keith to the hotel. Whoever it was will pay with their life,"
Roland said coldly before hanging up. Wilson kicked a chair as he put his phone away. Damn, where did this guy come from? I have to take care of him myself. "What a coincidence, Mr. Wilson. I'm actually the owner of the hotel he's staying at. Do you want me to take you there?" Stephen offered politely. "You have your uses. All right, I'll give you an opportunity to be my lackey. Lead the way." Wilson took the initiative and left the club first. Stephen turned to Tiffany. "Don't come back to the hotel tonight. Go home." He followed after Wilson despite her objections. It wouldn't be long until the members of the Black Dragon Guild surrounded the hotel. In the car, Wilson rambled on and on about how he would deal with the man who had won $2 billion. He would tear him apart and throw him into the ocean. Stephen took the chance to send a text to Matthew and Jack. When they arrived at the hotel, Wilson strode inside and walked towards the elevator. "Why are you so slow? We don't have all night." Stephen pressed the button for their floor. "I heard Mr. Rowland sent someone named Keith to this hotel. Is he strong?" Wilson glanced at him in disapproval. "Are you ignorant, or have you been living under a rock? One of the main reasons why my dad was able to become the head of the Black Dragon Guild was because of Keith. He only needs one hand to crush someone's neck. Back then, he killed at least 50 of Matthew's men." Keith, the man who had single-handedly massacred Matthew's subordinates, was Wilson's idol. When the elevator doors opened, Stephen led Wilson down the hallway. "This will be over before midnight," he murmured with a smile. "What did you just say? Stop mumbling to yourself. Are we there yet?" Stephen stopped and pointed to the door next to them. "We're here. This is his room." Instead of ringing the doorbell, Wilson kicked the door. After a moment, Matthew came outside. Stephen had led Wilson to Matthew's room rather than his own room. "Are you the person who took $2 billion from my family?" Wilson demanded. Matthew fixed his gaze on Wilson. He reminded him of Rowland, the man he wanted to kill, even in his dreams. "No, it wasn't me." "If it wasn't you, then who was it?" Without waiting for an answer, Wilson barged into the room and sat on the couch. "It doesn't matter who it was. Keith will be coming soon. None of you will be leaving the hotel alive." Stephen no longer felt the need to pretend. "Matthew, this idiot just told me that it was Keith who killed more than 50 of your friends." Matthew clenched his fists as he remembered his fallen comrades. His nails dug into his palms, drawing blood. Wilson looked over in surprise. "You're Matthew? That can't be right. My dad told me that you were dead." "I survived thanks to luck, and I'm here to make you and your family pay your dues." It took one punch from Matthew for Wilson to pass out on the floor. At this time, Keith was standing in front of the hotel's entrance. "The more time passes, the more useless Rowland becomes. Taking care of a few gamblers who won big is a waste of me and my team's skills." Several of his team members were hiding in the hotel's vicinity. One of them revealed himself to give his report. "Mr. Rowland said he made all the preparations. The hotel is completely sealed off. No one will be able to leave. You may go in and deal with them." What a waste of time. Keith went inside the hotel and took the elevator up. Fortunately, it was getting late, so none of the guests were wandering around. Keith stopped in front of a room. "You're in there, right, Matthew?" Matthew's voice sounded from behind the door. "It's been a while. Tonight, we'll settle our grudges." Keith laughed before kicking the door down. Dust clouded his vision. When he spotted a man moving in the corner, he lunged at him with inhuman speed and wrapped his fingers around his throat. "Go to hell." The sound of bones shattering filled the room. Keith let go, and the body collapsed on the floor. He shook his head and sighed. "What was the point in coming back? You walked straight into your grave."
The room became clearer as the dust settled. Keith paled when he recognized a familiar face. He had crushed the neck of Rowland's only son, Wilson. How was this possible? Wilson's eyes were wide open, and they stared directly into Keith's soul, as if he wanted to ask why he had done this to him. Stephen clapped his hands as he and Matthew emerged from the bedroom. "The subordinate killed his boss's son. Imagine the heartbroken look on his face when he finds out. This will make the headlines tomorrow." Keith took out a handkerchief and wiped the blood from his hands. "Matthew, I didn't expect you to become someone's underling. Did you really think you could control me just because you've got my weakness? Even if Rowland comes after me, I'm more than capable of killing him." Matthew resisted the urge to lunge at Keith and kill him on the spot. Even if I die, I'll take you down with me. Keep dreaming, Keith said. In his eyes, Matthew and his companion were nothing more than insects beneath his feet. There were at least 800 people in the underworld who have said the same thing, but not a single person was a match for me. How about this? I'll give you a way to keep your life. All you have to do is break your wrists and ankles. If you don't want to, I'll gladly make this your grave. It's your choice. Matthew steeled himself and rushed forward. When he swung a punch, Keith sidestepped and sent him flying with a kick. Matthew crashed into the wall and collapsed onto the floor. When he tried to stand up, he coughed up blood. He hadn't fully recovered from his previous injuries yet. The difference in strength between him and Keith was too big. Keith turned to Stephen. It's your turn. Will you choose the way out, or will you choose the dead end? The dead end, Stephen replied with a smile. But I'm not making this choice for myself. It's for you. Good. Let's see if you can keep talking big after this is over. Keith ran across the room and reached straight for Stephen's neck. Just before he made contact, Stephen grabbed his wrist, grounding him in place. He couldn't take a single step forward or backward. Stephen's gaze shifted to Keith's thumb. You sure are confident when your speed is nothing to brag about. Keith saw through his intention. He tried to pull his hand away, but to no avail. Stephen moved faster than Keith could react. In the next second, his thumb was broken. Then, it was his index finger. The sound of bones shattering echoed in the room, and in the blink of an eye, Stephen had broken all 10 of Keith's fingers. They were twisted at awkward angles. Keith dropped to the floor, overwhelmed with searing pain. His expression twisted into one of madness, and he made a strange sound. Matthew staggered to his feet. This is bad. That's a signal to his team. Dozens of black-robed figures swarmed into the room from the windows, balcony, and the doorway. Each of them had a tattoo of a dragon somewhere on their bodies. Keith's team aimed their guns at Stephen and Matthew. Remember these people, Matthew? They don't fear death, and they'll fight until the last breath. There's no escape for you or him. Matthew glanced at Stephen with an apologetic look in his eyes. Stephen was here only because he had insisted on taking revenge. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have gotten caught up in this. Don't worry, there's no such thing of not being afraid of death. They'll understand the true meaning of fear the second before they die. To Keith, Stephen and Matthew were only delaying their inevitable end. He motioned for his team to shoot. However, the sound of gunfire never happened. Keith looked back with eyes wide in horror. Sometime during his brief conversation with Stephen, a group of people in masks had come up behind Keith's team members and plunged their knives into the back of their necks. The masked figures flicked their wrist, cleanly severing their heads from their bodies. Blood splattered on the carpet and the walls. Keith's team dropped to the floor without a sound. The masked figures came forward and got on one knee in front of Stephen. Good evening, boss. Matthew looked at Stephen in disbelief. He had already guessed that Stephen wasn't an ordinary person, but he didn't expect him to be someone this powerful. Keith's team was widely known for their combat prowess and cruel methods, but Stephen's people had killed them off with relative ease. They were even addressing him with respect. Keith was in shock as he stared at the bloodbath before him. Just what kind of terrifying existence had Roland provoked? What's going on outside? Stephen asked. These people were their secondary guards of the palace. After arriving in San Francisco, he had asked Jack to have these guards patrol the streets. And tonight, they had arrived quickly after he sent a text to Jack in the car. There were a total of 7 groups affiliated with the Black Dragon Guild heading to the hotel. Each group consisted of approximately 40 people. All of them have been dealt with, and we're disposing of the corpses. In addition, we noticed a woman sneaking around at the entrance. When we questioned her, she said she was your acquaintance, so we didn't dare to act rashly without your instructions. The leader of the guards waved his hand, and a woman was brought into the room. It was Tiffany, and she was surprised when she found out that these people were Stephen's subordinates. Who knew the infamous, useless son-in-law of the Cassidy family in Los Angeles was hiding such a powerful identity? Stephen let out a sigh. Didn't I tell you to go home? He had sent her away because he knew that it would be dangerous at the hotel. But the main reason was because he was afraid that if she witnessed this in person, she would go back to Los Angeles and talk nonsense with Kim. Tiffany crossed her arms.
I can go wherever I want.
Stephen ignored her and looked back at Matthew. Let's go see Roland. Matthew's gaze fell on Keith. All right, I want them to die together. Stephen took out his phone and called Stanley. He made sure to lower the volume so that Keith wouldn't know who he was calling. Where's Roland? The moment Stanley heard Stephen's voice, he shouted into his phone. You scared me half to death. When I heard that Roland wanted to get rid of you, I tried to call you, but you didn't pick up. I was so worried that... Cut the small talk and tell me where Roland is. My apologies. He's at a club. As soon as Stephen got his answer, he hung up and turned to Tiffany. Don't follow us. Just go home. Tiffany wanted to argue, but when she saw the serious look on his face, she could only do as he said. Okay, fine, but lend me your phone. I need to call someone to pick me up. You can't tell anyone about what happened today, Stephen warned as he held out his phone. Whatever. Tiffany snatched the phone and left the room. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Natalie barged into Kim's room and woke her up. Kim threw an arm over her face. Mom, it's late. Maybe Stephen's already asleep. I'll call him tomorrow. No, you have to call him today. You weren't here when the real estate agent came, so you don't know how embarrassing it was. We have to pay the property fees as soon as possible. I was wondering why Stephen didn't put up a fight when I kicked him out. Who knew he would try to take the owner of Global Investments' money for himself? Call him right now. If he doesn't want to come back, then tell him to transfer me the money. When Kim didn't respond, Natalie pulled off her blanket and put the phone in her hand. Get up and call him. Kim sat up in a huff. You're the one who told him to leave, and now you want him to come back? How shameless can you be? Look, the property fees are beyond what we can handle. Where are we supposed to come up with several million all of the sudden? Can't you call him for your mom's sake? Kim sighed in annoyance. Fine, I'm only going to call him once. Whether he comes back or not is up to him. Natalie broke into a smile. If her beautiful daughter were to call her good-for-nothing son-in-law, wouldn't he come running home? Kim was angry just thinking about how Stephen had left so willingly. He hadn't even bothered to call her, even once. She reluctantly gave him a call. The phone continued to ring, and no one answered. Kim showed the screen to Natalie. He's probably asleep. Wait a little longer. Finally, the call connected, but it wasn't Stephen's voice that greeted them.
Hello? Who's calling?
It was a woman's voice, and she sounded drowsy. Kim's eyes widened as she looked at Natalie. Why was a woman answering Stephen's phone? More importantly, it was almost midnight. Did he leave their house to look for another woman? Kim tried her best to remain calm. Who are you?
Hey, is there something wrong with you? You're the one who called. Shouldn't you introduce yourself first?
It was obvious that the woman was in a bad mood because Kim's call had woken her up. Where's Stephen? Tell him to answer the phone.
He's busy. I'll tell him to call you back tomorrow.
When the woman hung up, Kim's hand shook as she clutched the phone. She almost gave in to the urge to throw it across the room. Natalie was confused by her strange expression. What's wrong? Nothing. I called the wrong number. Natalie had more to say, but she swallowed her words when she saw how angry Kim was. Okay, you can call him tomorrow. After Natalie left the room, Kim buried her face in her pillow. Stephen had been acting strange lately, and whenever she questioned him, he never gave her a direct answer. Had he really left the house only to stay with another woman? At this time, Tiffany was in one of her family's cars. After she left the hotel, she had given her family a call, and they had sent a car over to pick her up. Tiffany had fallen asleep on the way home, but a call from a weird woman had woken her up. Before Tiffany could check the caller ID, the driver pulled up to the driveway. He was the Meyer family's butler, and he had watched Tiffany grow up.
Miss Tiffany, we're here. You should hurry and see your father. He's been so worried that he hasn't gotten a wink of sleep.
Okay, got it. Tiffany shoved the phone back into her pocket and stepped out of the car. When she went inside, she saw her father standing by the window. He looked like he had aged several years, even though it had only been a few days. Tiffany felt guilty for worrying him. She threw herself into his arms. Dad, I'm back! Her father, Jensen Meyer, was relieved to see that his daughter was safe.
Do you know how worried I've been? You should have at least given me a call after you were rescued.
Sorry, I had some things to take care of, so I couldn't come back until now. Also, the people who kidnapped me took my phone, so I had no way to contact you. Tiffany held out her hands. Look, they even tied me up. Jensen frowned at the red markings around Tiffany's wrists.
Are you hurt anywhere else? That bastard Stanley dared to lay a hand on my daughter. I won't let him off so easily.
I'm fine. Fortunately, someone came to save me. Otherwise, I might not have been able to come back in one piece.
Who was it? How did they save you?
Tiffany told Jensen about her first meeting with Stephen in Los Angeles and their fateful encounter at the warehouse. She skipped over the details concerning the hotel. It didn't take long for Tiffany to bring him up to speed.
Are you saying that a man you met twice handed over $1 billion just to save you?
Jensen asked with a hint of doubt. Yes, that's right, Dad. You have to thank Stephen for me.
Of course, I know how to repay someone, but it sounds like money won't be worth anything to him. Either way, after hearing what you've said about him, he can't be normal. You're not allowed to meet him again.
Why can't I see him again? Tiffany asked in confusion.
Just do as I say.
From Jensen's tone, he clearly wouldn't be taking no for an answer. But Tiffany did just that. No, if you don't want to help me, I'll thank him myself.
Tiffany, you still don't understand how ill-natured people can be. Someone who was willing to take out $1 billion for you must have had an ulterior motive. You were kidnapped. Does it make sense for someone you've only met twice to show up and save you?
Dad, he's not as bad as you make him out to be. Jensen sighed.
All right, it's late. Go upstairs. Don't worry about Roland. I'll find a way to deal with him.
Tiffany recalled the bloody state of Matthew's hotel room. I don't think you need to step in. Roland won't make it to tomorrow. He's dead for sure.
You're still too naive, Jensen said. Do you know who Roland is? He's the head of San Francisco's underworld. He has countless powerful subordinates under his command. Have you heard of Keith? His nickname is the Butcher. He's strong enough to crush people's throats with a single grip. He also works closely with a team who isn't afraid of death. Even I have to be careful when going up against him.
Jensen knew that the Black Dragon Guild had been in San Francisco for dozens of years. Their network extended across the entire city. How could anyone get rid of an extensive organization like theirs so easily? Tiffany wanted to argue, but she stopped when she remembered Stephen's warning. Forget it. I'm gonna go watch some TV before going to bed. When Tiffany turned on the TV, the evening news was being aired.
This is the latest news from a reporter on the scene. After persisting in their investigation of the Black Dragon Guild for over a year, the police have officially deemed the case closed. The largest underworld organization in San Francisco has been destroyed in one night. The head of the Black Dragon Guild, Roland Adams, and his subordinate Keith were found dead at the scene. It appears to have been a crime of revenge.
Jensen's jaw dropped as he watched the news.
I heard Roland has the support of a powerful family in Washington, D.C. Who could have done this to him? How could he and Keith have died so suddenly? Maybe they provoked someone they shouldn't have.
With Roland dead, the Black Dragon Guild would fall apart. The underworld would surely be in chaos without a leader. Tiffany was even more curious about Stephen. See? I told you Roland wouldn't make it to tomorrow. Who told him to order his lackey to kidnap me? He got what he deserved. Are you saying that everything that happened tonight was because of that man named Stephen? Jensen shook his head. Tiffany, I think you've been brainwashed. Meanwhile, Stephen was back at the hotel with Matthew and Stanley. Stephen, thank you for everything. I'll be your loyal subordinate for the rest of my life. Ever since the day Roland betrayed him, Matthew had been dreaming of avenging his wife and his friends. Tonight, he had finally taken revenge with his own hands. You don't have to be so polite, Stephen said. I only helped you because your goals aligned with mine. Unfortunately, Stanley couldn't find Roland's account books. It seemed like the Addams family was cautious about their dealings with Roland. They didn't want to leave behind a single piece of evidence. Since this was the case, he could only lure them out of hiding. Matthew, stay here and lead the Black Dragon Guild. You don't have to worry about money or manpower. Don't touch a single cent from the Addams family. If anyone from their family contacts you, let me know as soon as possible. Matthew agreed in a heartbeat. He had founded the Black Dragons Guild with Roland and many others. Although they were no longer in this world and many things had changed, he would take back his position as the leader and build up the organization again. Stanley stood off to the side with his head lowered. He silently berated himself for not being able to complete Stephen's task. Stephen looked at him. Stanley, you'll be helping Matthew. Loyalty goes a long way. Stanley was stunned by his offer. Thank you. I'll do my best. Okay, don't disappoint me. I'll be heading back to Los Angeles tomorrow. If anything comes up, give me a call. It was almost time for him to pay the property fees. Helen and Natalie were probably looking forward to his return. The next morning, Jensen and Tiffany were having breakfast at home. Tiffany, the city's been crazy after last night. Stay home for today.
No, I have something I need to give back to Stephen. Don't worry, I can take care of myself.
He's the one person you should avoid meeting. Don't forget, you're engaged. Jensen trailed off when he saw the look on her face. Tiffany fiddled with her fork.
I know, but there's still half a year left. I want to do as much as I can to make the most out of these 6 months. That way, I won't regret it when the time comes.
3 years ago, the powerful Logan family in San Francisco had forced the Meyer family into an arranged marriage. They had only given the Meyer family 3 years. When time was up, Tiffany would have 2 choices. She would either accept the marriage proposal, or everyone in the Meyer family would be killed. Jensen had always felt guilty for being powerless to change Tiffany's fate. All right, I'm going to work now. When Jensen opened the door, he saw a young man standing at the entrance. He had hired 8 mercenaries to guard his home. How could anyone have broken in? Who are you? How did you get in here? I'm Stephen Addams. As for how I got in, sorry, but your bodyguard was being very rude, so I took the opportunity to teach him a lesson. Are you the son-in-law of the Cassidy family in Los Angeles? Jensen didn't expect him to come looking for him. What was he trying to do? Stephen rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. He didn't know his reputation would spread this quickly in San Francisco. Yes, that's me. Tiffany ran to the door when she saw Stephen.
Why are you here so early? I was going to look for you after breakfast.
Stephen walked past Jensen and held out his hand. I'm here for my phone. I'm going back to Los Angeles today.
What? Why are you leaving so soon? Will you come back to visit?
Stephen glanced back at Jensen. He looked at him like he was a burglar. I don't know. Where's my phone?
All right, I'll give it to you.
Tiffany reluctantly handed over the phone. She wanted to ask Stephen to take her with him to Los Angeles, but before she could think of a way to ask, Jensen interjected. Stephen, I don't know your background, nor do I know why you're trying to get close to Tiffany, but please recognize the difference in your status. Some people are out of your league. Stephen chuckled in response. When he turned around to leave, Jensen stopped him. He took out a pen and filled out a check before holding it out to Stephen. Using $1 billion to get close to the Meyer family is too naive. I'll give you $1.5 billion. What will you do now? Jensen wanted to use this chance to expose Stephen's ulterior motive so that his silly daughter would let him go. If Stephen took the check, he would be agreeing to stay away from the Meyer family. Tiffany was annoyed and signaled for him to stop talking.
Dad, Stephen's not like that.
Jensen continued to ignore Tiffany. Why are you hesitating? $1.5 billion is enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Stephen stared at the check. Sounds like it's worth it. Since you're being so generous, I'll accept. Tiffany was at a loss for words when he took the check. She refused to believe that he was this kind of person. Jensen heaved a sigh. Look, this is what he's really like. He approached you because of the money. While Jensen tried to talk sense into Tiffany, he subconsciously glanced at Stephen. He was rendered speechless when he saw him bend down and use the check to wipe his shoes. There's so much dust in this house that my $50 shoes are all dirty. In the blink of an eye, a $1.5 billion check issued by one of the top families in San Francisco had been rolled up and used to polish a pair of shoes. Jensen wanted to say something, but he didn't know where to start. He didn't think Stephen would be this shrewd at his age. It seemed like he couldn't let down his guard around him.
See, Dad? I told you he's not like that. I'll see him off and come back.
Tiffany ran after Stephen, who was already halfway through the gates.
I'm sorry my dad misunderstood you, but I believe you're not doing this for money.
It's okay. It's not like I really care. Stephen only considered Jensen to be his acquaintance's father. There was no need to pay too much attention to him. Tiffany jumped on his back and wrapped her arms around his neck.
You're the best!
Stephen was flustered because he didn't expect Tiffany to be so bold. Even though he and Kim had been married for 3 years, they rarely had such close contact with each other. What are you doing? Get down! If other people see us, they'll misunderstand.
Who cares? This isn't Los Angeles. No one knows you here.
Before Stephen could pull Tiffany's arms away, someone called out to her from the entrance. Is that who I think it is? The daughter of the Meyer family? Why are you being so disgraceful and lying on top of an unfamiliar man? Tiffany was so shocked that she immediately let go of Stephen. She was embarrassed to have been caught by someone from her rival family.
What are you doing here, Nicholas?
The young man in front of them was Nicholas Spence, the oldest son of the Spence family. They were one of the top families in San Francisco, and Nicholas would be the successor in the future. Nicholas grinned as he looked down at Tiffany. Why can't I be here? I was passing by when I witnessed you holding on to a strange man. What do you think Shane would think if I told him what I just saw? You and your family would be ruined. In recent years, the Spence family had expanded their influence at a fast pace. They had already become an existence that could threaten the Meyer family's status. Their families were rivals in the business industry, and the competition was fierce. Tiffany glared at him.
Your Spence family is the same as the Logan family's dog. Without the support of the Logan family, your family would be nothing.
But then, the reason why Shane had set his sights on her and forced her to marry him was because of Nicholas. Nicholas couldn't care less what Tiffany thought of him. To think you looked so pure and innocent on the outside. Who knew you had the courage to actually put the moves on another man in broad daylight? Stephen gave him a cold look, but he didn't say anything. On the other hand, Tiffany was fuming. She wanted nothing more than to tape his mouth shut.
If you run your mouth again, don't think I won't teach you a lesson you'll never forget.
Instead of wasting your time on that, you should think about how to explain yourself to Shane. Your family can't be compared to his. When Nicholas was about to leave, he noticed 2 people sweeping at the other end of the street. One of them was an elderly man, and the other was a pretty girl around 17 to 18 years of age. Nicholas went up to his friends and gestured to the girl. Hey, check her out. Let's take her somewhere to have fun. Tiffany was confused when Nicholas left in the middle of their conversation. Their families were always at odds, and he had witnessed her hugging Stephen. It didn't make sense for him to just leave without threatening her further. Tiffany walked past the gates and peered down the street. Nicholas and his friends were ganging up on an elderly man and a girl. When she turned around to ask Stephen to help, she discovered that he had disappeared. Nicholas and his friends shoved the elderly man to the ground. The girl tried to intervene, but they pushed her away and kicked the elderly man. Nicholas laughed. "Do you want us to stop? All you have to do is come with us. As long as you can satisfy us, we'll buy you and your grandpa a house." He glanced at his friends. They had stopped beating the elderly man, and their attention was now on the girl. "Why are you all standing around? Drag her away." One of his friends snapped out of his trance. "We should hurry before the cops come." The girl struggled when they grabbed her.
Let go of me! I'm not going anywhere with you!
"It looks like if this old man doesn't die, you won't come with us. In that case, I'll send him off." Nicholas's friend stepped hard on the elderly man's back. Just as he raised his leg to step on him again, a chilling voice sounded behind him. "You'll die if you step on him again." Nicholas's friend froze and slowly turned around. "Who are you?" The second those words left his mouth, Stephen kicked him square in the chest and sent him crashing to the ground. Nicholas and his friends whipped around at the commotion. Stephen had made his move so fast that none of them could react in time. "Who are you?" Nicholas demanded. "You're interrupting our fun. I'll have you know that I'm the son of the Spence family." One of Nicholas's friends spoke up when he realized that Nicholas had no recollection of seeing Stephen 5 minutes ago. "That's the man who was with Tiffany." "Oh, so that was you." Nicholas glanced at his friend on the ground. "How dare you do this to my friend? Looks like you're itching for an early death." "Let her go," Stephen said. "I can do that, but first you'll have to get down and lick my friend's shoes. If you do a good job, I might give this girl a chance." Nicholas stopped when he heard the sound of bones shattering behind him. His eyes widened when he saw his 2 friends on the ground, clutching their legs in pain. Nicholas swallowed nervously. "What did you do to them?" "Let her go," Stephen repeated. Before Nicholas could finish, another ear-piercing sound came from behind him. His friend's legs were now bent at awkward angles. One look was enough to feel their pain. What tricks were Stephen using? He didn't even see him move, but he had brutally incapacitated his friends without lifting a finger. Nicholas hurriedly let go of the girl and held his hands up in surrender. "Okay, I've let her go." "Slap yourself across the face and apologize to them." Nicholas had no choice but to do as Stephen instructed. He used all his strength to slap himself while apologizing. The girl ran to her grandfather, who was lying on the ground. She looked up at Stephen with tears in her eyes. "Please, call for an ambulance." Stephen crouched down and assessed the elderly man's condition. It was too late. He was already gone. Even if Colin were here, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Tiffany was concerned as she peered over Stephen's shoulder. "Can he be saved?" Stephen shook his head. "No, but I can avenge him." He stood up and flexed his hand. Tiffany grabbed Stephen's arm when she saw him reach for Nicholas.
Don't do it. Killing him is easy, but there's no need for that.
No matter how weak Nicholas was, he was still a member of the Spence family. If Stephen were to kill him, every influential person in the city would come after him. Even though Stephen was strong, his life would still be at risk. Stephen glanced at Tiffany. "The world is vast, but I don't think there's many people who can match up to me." Even so, he lowered his arm and scanned the people on the streets. They were pointing at him and whispering to each other. If he were to get rid of Nicholas in public, his identity as the Grand Palace Master would be exposed. Moreover, according to Tiffany, Getting the police involved wouldn't do much because of the Spence family's connections in the city. At most, Nicholas would spend a night in confinement at the police station before walking out scot-free the next morning. Stephen decided to let him go for now. There would be more opportunities later. Stephen planned on making a call to arrange for a funeral, but the girl, Alice, said she wanted her grandfather to be laid to rest at the cemetery in her hometown, not too far away from the city. After everything was taken care of, it was almost noon.
Stephen, thanks for everything you've done for me and my grandpa. Can I come with you?
Stephen and Tiffany exchanged a confused glance. Why?
Because you're a good person, and my grandpa's not here anymore, so I don't know where to go.
Stephen looked at Tiffany for help.
Don't look at me. As things stand, the Spence family is more influential than the Meyer family, and I don't know how to fight. If Nicholas's family were to take Alice by force, I wouldn't be able to protect her.
Tiffany anticipated the drama that would unfold once Stephen took Alice back to Los Angeles. Stephen sighed. I won't be staying here. I'll be going back to Los Angeles soon.
That's okay, Alice said. I'll go with you. My grandpa and I used to move from place to place. Now that he's gone, I don't have anywhere to go.
All right, Stephen responded casually, but he was worried about Kim's reaction. He had been away from Los Angeles for several days, and now he'd be coming back with a girl who appeared to be barely 17 or 18. How was he supposed to explain this to her? Late in the evening, Stephen arrived in Los Angeles with Alice. His first stop was Colin's house. He wanted an update on the Cassidy family's situation during the days he's been away. When Stephen pushed open the gates, he was surprised to see a crowd of people in front of the house. The person leading the group was none other than Helen. The good-for-nothing son-in-law has finally returned, Harry said. Do you know how long we've been waiting? Grandma has been waiting for you for more than an hour. Alice stepped out from behind Stephen and worked up the courage to defend him.
Don't talk about him like that. He's not a good-for-nothing.
Harry stared at Alice. Are you serious, Stephen? I didn't expect this from you. Where did you find this little girl? Rebecca also scolded him.
Did you disappear for a few days just to get together with another woman? Are you not ashamed of yourself? How do you plan on facing Kim or our family for that matter?
Helen raised her hand.
Stop arguing.
She gave Stephen a cold look.
Don't embarrass yourself any more than you have to. Go home.
Helen didn't wait for Stephen's reply. She led the rest of the family past the gates. In her opinion, telling Stephen to go back to the villa was already a valuable opportunity. There was no reason for him to decline. Stephen crossed his arms. Go back by yourself. Everyone stopped and turned to look at him.
What did you just say? I can kick you out of the Cassidy family at any time. You'll never be able to see Kim again,
Helen warned. Whatever, Stephen said as he turned away. That was up to him and Kim, not Helen.
Stop right there. You can leave if you want to, but transfer me the property fees from the owner of Global Investment first.
What property fees? I don't know what you're talking about. Stephen, what's with the attitude? Harry demanded. Don't think you're all that just because you have the support of a wealthy business owner. How dare you talk to Grandma like that? We're asking you for the property fees. You were the one who paid the balance last month. It's obvious that the owner of Global Investment gave you the money to pay it off. Where else would you have gotten such a large amount? Stephen looked over his shoulder. What a bunch of idiots, he muttered under his breath. He turned around and faced Helen. Grandma, I can go back, but you have to promise me that in the future, everyone at the company, including you, will have to give Kim the respect she deserves. You can't brush her off without hearing her out.
Are you threatening me? Have you gone crazy?
Stephen shrugged. If you don't want to, then please leave. I drove for several hours to get here, so I'm tired. I don't have the energy for this. Before anyone could leave, a car drove up to the entrance. It was Kim and Natalie. So you were hiding in a place like this, Natalie said the moment she got out of the car. Do you know how many times the real estate company called over the past few days? Did you want to take the money for yourself? Kim didn't say anything. She looked past Stephen and frowned when she saw a girl standing behind him. Stephen quickly went up to Kim and greeted her. Kim, you're here too? This was the first time they'd seen each other in days. He had missed her. Helen interrupted them. Natalie, this is your family's plan to force me into a corner. I told Stephen to go home, and do you know what he said? He gave me a condition. He won't go back unless everyone here agrees to listen to Kim. Natalie glared at Stephen. The only thing he knew how to do was cause trouble for her. Mom, why would you think that? You were there when the real estate agent visited the house. I was in a bind because of the property fees. Fine, let's leave it at that for now. Kim, I suppose he will only listen to you. Tell him to go home and pay the fees. Helen's priority was to settle the sky-high property fees because neither she nor Kim's family could afford them. Natalie tried her best to persuade Kim. Your grandma's right. Tell him to go home and we'll talk about the rest later. Kim waved for him to come closer. Stephen, come here. I have something to tell you. She hesitated before finally making up her mind. Let's get a divorce. Everyone was shocked when Kim brought up divorce. Natalie pulled Kim's arm and whispered, Are you crazy? If you want a divorce, do it after you get the money back. We need to pay the fees. Stephen was silent as he processed her words. Kim, did I do something wrong? We're not compatible, so we should just go our separate ways, Kim said. Regardless of Stephen's financial status and how many times he had disappointed her and broken his promises, she could endure and look past everything. But not cheating. She couldn't tolerate her husband having an affair. Stephen nervously held Kim's hand. What's the matter? Is it because I wasn't here for the past few days? I had something to take care of in San Francisco, and I don't know how we're not compatible. Kim pulled her hand away and turned around to hide the tears in her eyes. When you have time, give me a call. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau and take care of the paperwork. Without looking back, Kim got in her car and drove away. Stephen watched her car disappear into the distance with a heavy heart. He couldn't understand where this was coming from. What had he done wrong? Natalie was afraid that Stephen would cut off contact without paying the property fees. Even if you and Kim divorce, don't think about running away with the money. Hurry up and transfer me the money for the fees. Stephen shot her a glare before turning around and going inside. Alice ran after him. Helen looked at Natalie in disapproval. What exactly is going on here? Didn't I tell you to get Kim to convince him to come back? Forget it. We can settle the property fees by yourself. Natalie massaged her temples. How was she supposed to come up with such a large sum of money? After Stephen stormed inside Colin's house, he took off his shoes and sat by the window, absent-mindedly staring at the greenery outside. Alice put a bowl of fruits on the table. I washed some fruits. Do you want some? No. As Stephen watched the flowers sway in the wind, it dawned on him that something must have happened while he was away. But why didn't Kim give him a call? Stephen took out his phone and checked his call history. He sat up with a start. Kim had called him around midnight. Wait a minute. He didn't have his phone on him at that time. It was Tiffany. Stephen hurriedly scrolled through his contacts and found her number. Tiffany picked up on the first ring.
Were you worried about me the second you got back?
She teased. Stephen wasn't in the mood to joke around with her. He got straight to the point. Did someone call me around midnight?
No, I've been holding onto your phone since last night, and no one...
Tiffany remembered that she received a strange phone call when she was in the car.
Wait, some woman did call you. Her call woke me up, so I don't really remember the details. She didn't say much. She just asked me who I was.
Stephen's heart sank. It must have been Kim, and she most likely misunderstood when Tiffany picked up instead of him. He also didn't get a chance to tell her about Alice, and that probably deepened the misunderstanding. After a long night, Stephen rushed back to the villa early the next morning. Kim sat at the dining table as he entered the house. He awkwardly took a seat across from her. Stephen didn't know how to break the ice, so he opted for stating the obvious. "Are you having breakfast?" Kim looked up at him. She was happy to see him, but she quickly composed herself. "Are you here because you want to rush to the Civil Affairs Bureau and get our divorce out of the way?" "No, Kim, I know why you're mad. When you called me the other day, Tiffany answered the phone." So it was Tiffany. I thought her voice sounded familiar. Did you leave this house just so you could live with her? "Kim, it's a misunderstanding. The truth is..." Stephen told Kim about Tiffany's kidnapping and how he was passing by and saved her. Of course, he conveniently skipped over the details that would reveal his identity. "Is that true?" Kim asked with a hint of doubt. "Yes, if you don't believe me, you can call Tiffany and ask her." "No, I'll take your word for it. In the future, don't ever leave like that again. This is your..." Kim lowered her gaze in embarrassment. "This is your home." Truthfully, the reason why Kim believed Stephen so easily wasn't just because she didn't think he would lie to her. It was also because she had seen Tiffany's kidnapping on the news. Stephen's face lit up. It felt like the sun was breaking through the clouds after a long night of thunderstorms. "Right, this is my home. I won't leave you again." Before they could continue their discussion, they heard Natalie's startled voice outside the house. She was coming home from her morning jog when she saw Alice standing around outside the door. "Who are you? Not just anyone can wander in here." Stephen had been so focused on explaining the situation to Kim that he forgot Alice was waiting for him outside. He hurried to the door and motioned for Alice to come inside. Natalie frowned when she saw Stephen. "Where did you come from? And is this your lover? It's obvious that she's coveting the Cassidy family's money. Let me tell you something. Don't think you can get rich just by getting along with Stephen. He's just a son-in-law in our family." Alice shook her head. "I'm not that kind of person." "Ignore her. Come inside," Stephen said. He led Alice into the living room. Kim had been wondering who this girl was. She waited patiently for his explanation. "This is my friend Alice. Her family is no longer here, so she'll be staying with us for the time being." "Is this the girl you told me about? The one who was bullied?" Stephen nodded. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Kim patted the seat next to her. "Come and sit down. Your name is Alice, right? This will be your home from now on." Alice took a seat and looked up at Kim in admiration. "You're really pretty." "I refuse," Natalie said. "Is our home some kind of shelter?" "You don't agree? All right, pay the property fees on your own. I won't give you a single cent." "Are you threatening me, Stephen? You..." Natalie wanted to give him a long lecture, but when she thought about Helen's words from yesterday, she decided against it. They owed several million worth of property expenses. "Do whatever you want," Natalie gritted out. She went back to her room. She would only be humiliating herself if she stayed here. Kim picked out one of the empty guest rooms for Alice. "This is your room from now on. Do you like it?" "Yes, thank you." Alice was amazed by how luxurious the room was. She and her grandfather never had a permanent residence. This room reminded her of their small house in their hometown. Kim patted Alice's head. "Stephen, I'm meeting a client later, but I don't have a good impression of him. I don't think it'll be a simple meeting. Can you come with me?" "Sure, who's your client?" "Peter Clark. Have you heard of him? He's from a famous family outside the city." Stephen recalled that Jack had told him that the head of the Clark family had been asking to see him for a while, but he had refused, because there was no point in meeting a family that was only worth tens of billions of dollars. He's from the Clark family? I heard they're involved in the real estate industry. So you know about them too. Grandma told me that their family is searching for a business partner in Los Angeles, but the person they sent is Peter. I heard he's only interested in getting his hands on the women he targets. Don't worry, with me here, he wouldn't dare to touch you. The serious look on Stephen's face made Kim and Alice laugh. Alice, wait for me at home, Kim said. When we come back in the afternoon, I'll take you outside to buy clothes and other necessities. Stephen drove Kim to the hotel for their meeting with Peter. There were 2 bodyguards standing in front of his room. I'm sorry, but Mr. Peter only invited Miss Kim. If you're not letting him inside, then I won't be going in either. Even though they would be missing out on an opportunity for a collaboration, Kim couldn't cater to her client's whims. A dissatisfied voice sounded from inside the room. Let them in. One of the bodyguards opened the door and gave Stephen a warning. You had better be respectful during your discussion. Otherwise, don't blame us for using our fists. Stephen merely glanced at him before following Kim into the room. With a sneer, the bodyguard closed the door. I heard he's the useless son-in-law of the Cassidy family. As expected, the rumors were true. He acts like nothing happened after being talked down to. Peter flashed a smile when he saw Kim. He stood up and held out his hand. Welcome. You're as beautiful as the rumors say you are. Stephen stepped forward and shook Peter's hand in place of Kim. You're also the same as the rumors. Peter's expression darkened as he pulled back his hand. And you are? I'm her husband. I hope that clarifies me and Kim's relationship. Kim was glad to see Stephen standing up for himself, but she also worried he was provoking the wrong person. She nudged him as a warning. Oh, I know you. When I first came to Los Angeles, I heard people talking about you. From what I know, you don't have much of a reputation. Maybe so, but it's better than being known as some lustful beast. A tense atmosphere filled the room. Kim intervened before the situation could escalate. Stephen was coming on strong before the meeting had even started. If this continued, there would have been no point in coming here. Stephen, stop. I'm sorry, Mr. Peter. I invited my husband because we have other matters to attend after this meeting. I hope you don't mind. Of course not, Peter said with a smile. Having a married woman was even more exciting. He pulled out a chair and gestured for Kim to sit. Stephen didn't hesitate to take the seat instead. He pulled out the chair next to him. Kim, sit here. Peter had no choice but to swallow his anger and return to his own seat. Kim got straight to the point. The reason we came today is to... Peter cut her off and pushed a bottle of wine towards her. There's no rush. This is a bottle of XO. Before we get down to business, have a taste. Sure enough, Peter was as obsessed with women as the rumors said he was. Kim politely refused him. No thanks, I don't drink. Are you turning me down because you don't want to drink with me? No, it's because I'm cutting back on alcohol. If Grandma hadn't repeatedly asked her to meet with Peter, she would have already slammed the door and left. Stephen picked up the bottle of wine. Can I drink this instead? Peter smiled. Of course, but only if you want to. I wouldn't force anyone into drinking. But if you really do want to drink, you'll have to down at least 2 bottles to show your sincerity. Peter had succeeded. His real goal was to get Stephen out of the picture so that he could have Kim all to himself. Makes sense, Stephen said lightly. He opened the bottle and chugged the wine like it was water. Kim tugged his sleeve, feeling extremely anxious. Stephen, stop. Don't drink anymore. The moment she saw the smile on Peter's face, she knew this was a trick. Who would have thought that Stephen wouldn't realize? He foolishly walked right into Peter's trap. Stephen ignored her. 1 bottle down, 1 more to go. 10 minutes later, there were 5 empty bottles of wine on the table. Stephen had opened 3 more bottles, but he wasn't drunk in the slightest, not even a bit tipsy. How's that? 5 bottles is certainly enough to show my sincerity, right? Peter looked at him like he was crazy. Was this guy even human? 5 bottles of XO, and he was still perfectly fine? His plan had failed, but no matter. Peter snapped his fingers, and 10 bodyguards rushed into the room. Kim, there are many people in this city who want to work with the Clark family. If you don't want to do business with us, that's up to you. But if you change your mind, all you need to do is spend a night with me. Faster than Peter could react, Stephen punched him across his face. Peter was stunned as he tried to regain his bearings. Did you just hit me? Kim stood up in surprise. Stephen, you're being too impulsive. Apologize to him. While seeing Peter get punched was satisfying, she was worried about what he would do to get back at Stephen. Peter waved a hand. Kill him right now. Yes, sir, the bodyguards said in unison. Punching their boss was the same as insulting them. They rushed towards Stephen, ready to tear him apart. Just then, the door was kicked open. Several people barged into the room and took down Peter's bodyguards in one swift motion. A woman in a bright red dress strode into the room. It was Christina. How dare you act like this at my hotel? This is my territory. You must be asking for a beating. Christina was famous in Los Angeles, and even though Peter had only arrived in the city recently, he had heard of her. Miss Christina, Peter stuttered. I'm Peter Clark. My family told me to pay you a visit and... Tell your family I said hello. Christina kicked him off the chair and onto the floor. Peter was shocked beyond words. He had only been planning to seduce a girl tonight and show off in front of her husband, but he had ended up being punched and kicked around. Stephen gave Christina a subtle nod. She got the hint and stepped back with her people. What should we do? Kim asked worriedly. Any hopes of collaborating with the Clark family had been thrown out the window. His family won't let this go. It'll be fine. They won't be able to do anything. Peter glared at them. You two are dead meat. I'll call my dad right now, and he'll erase your family from this city. He reached into his pocket for his phone, only to find it empty. Stephen held out his phone. If you've lost your phone, I can lend you mine. Give your dad a call. Kim was in disbelief. Was he drunk, but just wasn't showing any signs? Peter stared at the phone in confusion. He couldn't figure out what Stephen was thinking. Why was he so confident? You want me to call my dad? That's right. Stephen tossed the phone at Peter, and he fumbled to catch it. Fine, you won't be cocky for long. Peter dialed his father's number. When the call went through, a booming voice sounded from the other end of the line. It was his father, Victor Clark.
Who is this?
Dad, it's me, Peter. You have to save me before I get beaten to death.
What? Who's threatening you? I'll come over right away.
Victor's voice filled with anger. Stephen grabbed the phone and spoke in a low voice. Didn't Jack tell you that I'm in Los Angeles? Your son dared to lay his hands on my wife. Victor was stunned to hear Jack's name.
Are you the Grand Palace Master?
He asked in a shaky voice. His son had made a move on the Grand Palace Master's wife. That immature brat. He had single-handedly ruined the Clark family.
Do your best to make up for what he's done.
With that, Stephen hung up. Even though Peter was surrounded, he continued to threaten them. Just you wait. Do you know what happened to the person who offended me last time? I broke their arms and legs. When his father arrived, he would make Stephen suffer a fate worse than death. Kim shoved her bank card into Stephen's pocket. This looks bad. Victor's not someone you can mess with. I heard he has connections with San Francisco's Black Dragon Guild. He'll chase you down to the ends of the earth for doing this to his son. First, we should think about how to get you out of the city. Stephen held her trembling hands. If I leave, what are you going to do? Don't worry about me. I'm no one important. What's the worst they can do to me? Stephen shook his head. I'm not leaving. Christina took a step forward. Miss Kim, don't worry. I believe Mr. Adams has a plan. Peter scrambled to his feet and sat at the table. Kim, you're too naive. He won't be able to leave under my family's watch. Don't even think about escaping the city. Stephen glanced at him. Even if he were planning to leave the city by plane, a family with only a net worth of tens of billions wouldn't be enough to stop him. Kim grew more anxious by the minute. She looked at Stephen, who hadn't said a word. Why are you just standing there? Now's not the time to be zoning out. Do you know how to contact the owner of Global Investment? Maybe if you tell him your situation, he'll help you out. Or maybe I can ask Grandma for help? Even though she's biased, she might lend us her assistance since this is an emergency. Stephen led Kim to the couch and sat her down. Okay, calm down. Everything will be taken care of soon. Kim stared at him. Did he really lose his mind from the alcohol? An hour later, hurried footsteps sounded from outside the room. Victor had arrived with his bodyguards. The moment they entered the room, Peter ran up to them. You're finally here. That guy is crazy. He beat me up, and he even called you a coward. Victor looked at his swollen cheek. Who hit you? He asked nervously. Peter pointed at Stephen. Him. He's that trash son-in-law of the Cassidy family, Stephen Adams. Everyone knows about him in Los Angeles. As Victor walked up to Stephen, Peter could already imagine his tragic end. But to his surprise, nothing happened. Peter turned around and saw Victor bend down. Dad, what are you doing? Victor kneeled on the floor. Grand Palace Master, I apologize for my son's immaturity. Please allow our family to survive. Kim was speechless when Victor got on his knees. He even begged Stephen to save his family. And why was he calling him Grand Palace Master? Dad, are you crazy? Peter exclaimed. Who are you calling Master? He's just a nobody. Before he could finish, Victor slapped his head. You don't even know who you've offended. I should just disown you and kick you out of the family. Stephen was the Grand Palace Master, a terrifying existence who could turn the world upside down with a single word. Kim didn't know what was going on, but she worried Victor might try to get back at them later on. Stephen, let's just leave. They'll get what's coming to them. Okay. Stephen looked down at Victor. Before you came, your son threatened to break my arms and legs. Victor got to his feet. There was a strange smile and a relieved look on his face. Thank you for sparing my family, Mr. Grand Palace Master. If you want, I can break his limbs right now. As long as he could protect the Clark family, breaking Peter's arms and legs was a good trade-off. He wouldn't bat an eye, even if Stephen had asked him to kill his own son. Peter turned pale. Dad, I'm your only son. How could you say something like that? Kim was astonished by their father and son relationship. Why did Victor look so excited at the prospect of harming his son? Were they really a family? Stop this nonsense, Stephen said. Victor felt a chill run down his spine at Stephen's displeased expression. Yes, I apologize. Oh, that reminds me. What will happen to the collaboration between the Cassidy Group and your family? Don't worry. The only business partner the Clark family will have in this city will be the Cassidy Group. All right, Kim, let's go. Stephen held her hand and led her out of the room. Victor watched them leave with reverence in his eyes. To him, Stephen was like his god. He was envious of the Cassidy family. How did they manage to get the Grand Palace Master on their side?